Okay, welcome to this week's episode of KUDEN Radio. Daishian Miller here from Warrior Concepts. Of course, you know that. Got a little bit of a different setup here. We're trying to do this from my office at the academy, and things are still not set up. As a matter of fact, just before we got on, Trinity and I were putting together or papering shoji screens. So
It's these things.
that's
For those people that don't know.
So anyway, this is also a first. I guess it's a three banger. It's a first because I've never interviewed one of my own family members who train also. So introduce Trinity here in just a bit, but most of you know her as my daughter, and you hear her voice during some of these things, or we recite or we quote back. James will read something that maybe she typed in or whatever in the chat box. The other first is this, to me, seems more like what I would call a fireside chat. I know we don't have a fire and we're not beside one, and we probably shouldn't be talking about fires because 2 and 3.5 for 4 years or whatever is more than enough for anybody. Anyway, what I mean by that is when I do these interviews with students, they're somewhere else in the world, or I don't know, big old fat comfy chair somewhere. No, he's never going to live it down. Anyway, so normally what we have is like either a split screen, or we have the camera switches to whoever's talking, that kind of thing, or we can switch things around. But either way, like we're in the same quote unquote studio at the moment. So
See?
this is how families train. There's James just laughing in the background. Right? So I was about to say that we have James, as usual, in the wings, being the producer, filtering out the yahoos to try to put flaming or dumbass comments in the chat. And that's not for normal people. There's some nutballs out there. So anyway, before we go ahead and formally fire things up, this is another special episode. I have a student perspectives series that I have that I've been running, and I don't do them back to back. Just every once in a while, we kind of toss one of these things in, and so it's less of a teaching thing directly from me, and more of like an interview, right? So the guest does most of the stuff. I just have some prompter questions and whatnot that I kind of toss out, and so what it's really designed for is so that you, the listener, can see what other students, other folks like you are doing with the art, right? How you're using it in your lives, those kind of things, right? In this case, just happens to be my daughter. And there's a huge reason for that, and we'll get into those as we go. Okay, but let's just do this. We're going to go ahead and fire things up and make it official. And yeah, I'll talk to you as soon as we get back. So the big question is this: how are self-defense and success-minded people like us, concerned citizens worried about protecting ourselves, our loved ones, and the things we care about from the monsters we know exist in the world? How do we train in a way that gives us the skills, knowledge, and understanding we need without becoming paranoid fighters or killers ourselves, and yet still allows us to be the hero protector the world needs us to be? That's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Jeffrey Miller, and welcome to KUDEN Radio, real training for real people in a real world. All right, so we are back. Again, Daishian Miller here from Warrior Concepts and KUDEN Radio. I know this is not really a radio, but I thought that sounded cool when I put this together.
Well, it was a radio at one point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was shot or not shot, but recorded in a radio studio.
It worked at the time.
But
and it's 2025. You can call anything you want.
All right, let's not go there. Okay. Can you tell she's my daughter? Anyway, all right. So again, for those of you joining us late, this is another episode or another interview in our student perspective series that I do to interview students, and to give you a little bit of a background for that, because I have not done one in just under 50 episodes.
Last one was Lee, wasn't it?
No, first one was Lee. No,
I was there for that one.
The last one was Alan.
Oh, I did not see that one.
Oh, not my fault. It's okay. Don't watch it. Just listen to the audio.
Oh, is he the lazy boy?
It'll be
Is that
better. See the lazy boy one. Yeah. So anyway, lots of folks have podcasts and they bring on celebrities and things like that. And I know that has a cool factor to it. But everybody's doing that, right? And what questions could I ask that you haven't heard somebody else ask the same person on another podcast? And what, are they going to give a different answer? I mean, that kind of thing. So what I thought when I started this whole series was uh, was flipping the script, so to speak, and interviewing students, right? My most engaged students, to see what they're doing and to kind of have them explain and to again, we're going to do it as a chat, but to discuss things that not just what they're doing with the art, but also how they're overcoming a lot of the same problems that everybody has. Everybody thinks their situation is unique, right? And ironically, that very thing makes them average because everybody thinks their situation is unique. Well, if everybody does it, then it's not unique, right? So everybody has time issues to get to class. A lot of people have travel distance issues to get to class. Some people have money issues. Some people have, there is, there's no problem that somebody hasn't had. James and I laugh about this all the time, that I didn't have, right? Um, but it's different coming from me than it is coming from another student. Now, given this one, it might not come across the same way because it's my daughter. But we're going to talk about some things here where um, the kids don't always do the same thing that the parents are doing, right? And we'll talk about little moments in our history where just a mean old dad, and then so
I didn't say it.
Anyway, so again, I have the same standard question outline, right? The same conversation questions that I use for everybody. And so, yes, it's my daughter, but I'm going to lead this just as if I were interviewing any other student. Okay. Given that that student probably would not reach across and punch me to prove to you that we were in the same room. However, it's my daughter. Anyway,
Come on, guys.
Right. So, yay, cheer her on. Anyway, so I'm gonna run that interview that way. I know some other things about her and whatnot, obviously, right? So I'll lead some of these things because not everyone that's listening started in the martial arts at 2.5 because they were growing up in a dojo and just started to do ichimonji because they weren't out in the class, but they saw everybody else doing it, and they just did it along with them. And then eventually, we just made the decision to put her out on the floor. For the record, I would not take anybody else's 2.5-year-old. Okay, mine just happened to communicate a certain way. Just my kids had no idea that like no other kid in the neighborhood went to martial arts class. Right? I mean, the confusion of coming home and going, but
I thought this just was.
I thought everybody, right? That her middle sister, same thing. Right? Came home one day confused. Dad, I told me the story. I thought everybody took martial arts. No, baby, it doesn't work that way, right? So, but little things along the way, just to give you a gist of who she is. But um, a lot of you, the regulars, right? You've heard her on, you've heard her and us discuss things. I think I missed a KUDEN. Did I miss a KUDEN, James? Because I was in DC for her graduation from Georgetown. Was that a Monday?
That was a Thursday.
That was a Thursday.
I think you missed a whiteboard Wednesday because of it. Potentially.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah, it wasn't KUDEN.
That was a KUDEN? Let's see, there you go.
No.
Oh, because it flowed into your vacation.
Aha.
That's what
Okay, there you go.
That's what it was.
Anyway, all right. And so, so there'll probably be some different types of banter because she thinks she has carte blanche and all that kind of stuff. But
I'm hilarious. I don't know what you're talking about.
see, all right. So anyway, all right. Before we jump into this, let's check in with James and see who's on and see who's actually spoken up to say hi.
I'm
What's
on
up,
the other
James?
side of this.
What's
Looks like
The other side of this.
You're on the other side of this.
I'm not typing in hi. My thumbs don't know what to do with themselves.
got Dave, Terrence, Alan, Victor, Jared, Chris McLaurin.
Awesome.
Yeah, everybody.
Local, long distance, people that are figments of their own imagination. Right?
Alan said Buenos Dias, so he obviously doesn't know Spanish either, because it's not morning, unless he's elsewhere in the world.
Good day. Buenos dias. Good day. He's just trying to cover his bases. Either that or he ate some Mexican or Puerto Rican crayons. I don't know. He's a Marine. What can I tell you?
I can't cackle in the safety of my own bedroom. I'm gonna laugh at people on live. I'm sorry.
I'll piss off the rest of everybody. Anyway, all right. So, anything else, James? Questions, comments?
No, that's it.
No. Bet everybody's been looking forward to this one. What's that?
Josh Bloom just said hi.
Awesome. Hi,
Hi,
Josh.
Josh.
Hi, Josh. Joshy. Sorry.
I'm gonna hit him again.
Yeah. All right. So, impromptu family training session. Okay. So, like I said, I'm going to interview her. I'm going to interview Trinity as if she were just any other guest. Obviously, things will change along the way, but I want to stay to this format because the reason for the format is to give you some background about the person and what they're doing and how long and those kind of things. Okay. So obviously I start with the format and then as certain topics come up, it'll just turn into a conversation about that. So it's not, it's not an interrogation. It's just a conversation with kind of an outline for flow. All right. So, and again, for those of you who missed this, this is, I don't even know what episode or what, I know it's episode 274, which means we were 26. So what, 6 months or no, a little bit less than that. From like our 300th episode.
About 6 months, yeah.
Jeez, it just seems like it was like, I don't know, a year or so ago when we did the 200.
Mm.
Anyway, all right, so let's just jump into this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of ask Trinity to tell us a little bit about herself. Age, yes, you have to answer. What you do currently, right? Because she's not a student no more, although she will be again soon. But anyway, hobbies, side gigs if you have them, those kind of things. Yeah, so let's just start with that.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm his kid. My name's Trinity. I'm 23. Actually, my birthday's coming up. So I'm about to be 24. Ew. What I do, I actually currently have 2 jobs at the moment. I still have my college job from Walmart, so I'm still working there, still paying the bills. But I also just got recruited into a global tech company known as Glocal. It's a combination between global and local. It's a news superintelligence platform that utilizes AI and human credentialed resource or sources to verify news outlets, and through them, I am a open source analyst. So yeah, I got to add that to my.
I don't know what open source is, but apparently she analyzes it.
Open source just means anything.
So, Mr. Open Source,
well,
how long have you been feeling like this?
If you know anything about the intelligence world, there's different levels of intelligence. There's human intelligence, technological intelligence, signals intelligence, that sort of thing. Open source intelligence is anything that's open to the public that is not behind a government wall.
Gotcha.
Could be behind a paywall, but not behind a government wall. Which sucks for me. But yeah, so I'm an open source analyst with them. I am currently working on their consumer psychological profiles so we can better our marketing techniques. Hobbies, I'm kind of all over the place. I like reading, I like music, I like needle arts, which is like crochet and stuff like that. I've been told I have grandma hobbies, um, which I both resent and lean into. So take that as you will. Side gigs, I don't really have any side gigs. I work 2 jobs and I just got out of school, so I'm focusing. My side gig is paying my debt. So I think that was it. Was that it?
I think so.
Yeah.
So normally I would ask someone if if they teach or they have a training group, whatever. She trains. We'll get back to that in a bit here, but I did want to get back to the uh, what you do. What she did not mention, and I think this crosses over between hobbies. I got glue peeling off
I thought you had one of my hairs. I'm pulling
repapering the
them off
shoji
myself.
screens. I'm like, ah, radiation birds.
Lizard people. He's peeling.
So I just wow.
We're to
All
scare
right.
all the conspiracy theorists.
Careful what you're doing with your palms. Anyway, all right. So, but this crosses over. She hated when she finally became an adult because, like, for the longest time as a kid, she's like, "Ooh, why don't you tell me?" I can't. No, no. You maybe when you're older, whatever. And then she got old
I
enough,
resent being
and,
older.
and then heard a couple of the grown-up jokes, and she's like, "Ah."
I hate it here.
So anyway, but this falls between like hobbies, side gigs, and whatnot. Is
Not the peeling hands.
no.
The thing he's about to start.
No. You're like me. You are an avid researcher, right? The other thing is that of all of my children, like this one was the little princess. Like grew up playing dress up. Her idea of playing games was not like board games, not like video games, whatever. This one would binge watch the same movie 400 times, whatever, and then want to play. Daddy, let's play Nemo. Daddy, let's play
X-Men.
Yeah, whatever, right? And then she would pick a character and then tell me what character I was going to be. And then the rest of the game was her telling me that because she had memorized all the lines in the movies, telling me that I said it wrong and how to say it, and then getting frustrated because I didn't get the inflection right. It was terrible. When I met my wife, so we're talking 18 years ago. Let's see, we met August, September-ish. So that Christmas, because I like at that point when I was single for like 3 years. And I made a vow to myself that I wasn't going to introduce anybody to my kids until I thought maybe, things were going to go, not even maybe, right? It was like 90%. So by the time these two met each other and realized that they were like
basically twins.
it's really weird, right? So anyway, for that Christmas, the gift that she got that I think irritated other family members was my wife, my fiance at the time, bought her a play trunk that had nothing but dress up pieces in it. Right?
That was the bane of my mother's existence.
Just a mix and match. She could just, yeah. I mean,
because I refuse to go out in normal clothes.
It's just anyway. So, but an avid researcher, and we'll get to this with the coming back to Ninjutsu and whatnot. But this, like, she had a breakthrough, I think, before fall camp. Because you went from self-defense and because you're, again, of all my kids, miss dress up, right? She has won singing contests, all kinds of things, right? Never in a million years would have imagined that she would be following in my footsteps, criminology, federal law enforcement, going after bad guys and stuff. Like, and look at that face. Like, they're never going to see her coming. Right. Anyway, for those of you on audio only, sorry, you're just have to miss out on the cherub look
I'm
that
still
she
the
gave.
princess.
Yeah, of course you are.
I'm just
That's
the
right,
warrior
and
princess.
it's good to be the king. So, anyway, yeah. So, like to her and I, that's enjoyment time. That's you know, and this just gives us plenty to sink our teeth into. As a matter of fact, we're going to dive into this a whole lot more as we go along. I see the numbers keep going up and whatnot. James, anybody else check in? Um, any questions, comments? Um, you can leave off the ones that the psycho had posted in emails that he wanted to marry my daughter. We'll leave those alone, okay? Because nothing ruffles a dad's feather more than some unknown guy. I mean, this one I know just a bit too much because Ninja in the 21st century have two things: one, little Jewish lawyers, and two, um, investigative tools that I didn't have back in the 80s. So,
I also have a lot more friends now than I
yeah,
used to in a lot higher places. So
there you
you
go.
can try.
There you go. Anyway, so who do we have, James? Anybody else?
Nobody else checked in, but hold on. Victor said Trinity is so much like my daughter. And Josh asked, are scientific articles where you can get the abstract but not the full thing without paying? Is that considered open source or no?
Yes. So basically, anything that does not require you to have a security clearance, that is open source, or anything that is commercially patented or under review. So anything that's kind of a trade secret, that's also not considered open source because it would put undue hardship and loss on a company by being out in the open. Basically, anything that could not hurt somebody by being out in the open, that's not going to lose money, that's not going to lose face for a government somewhere. Pretty much everything is open source. Yep.
Now, that being said, she had mentioned things that weren't behind a government firewall and whatnot. There is an exception, okay? And it's a very loose government firewall. There are tech manuals, field manuals, all kinds of things from different departments and branches across the government. Like the U.S. government is the largest repository of technical and nonfiction information. Now, some of it, granted, is dated, but it's a great place to start and keep on moving. Right now, you're going to find a lot of stuff that's redacted or whatever, but this is public. It's the equivalent of public domain, but the government has it.
Public domain.
Yeah, but the government is sitting on it. It's in the libraries and
I use those
and
in
things
my
like
thesis.
that. Yeah, so there's that as well, right? So you can do a search on that, and now there are restricted topics. You're not going to find field manuals that we would have had in the military for demolitions and stuff like that. However, well, not the newest stuff.
Well, they'll be from other countries,
right? And there are things that are available. If you can buy the field manual on the open market, because I do have ones on tripwires and booby traps and things like that, actual U.S. Army field manual, you can buy these things in Army surplus stores and whatnot, and they're not doing it under the table or anything like that. There's a lot of crazy stuff that's available, but there are certain sensitive topics that you're not going to find that's open to the public, right? However, there's plenty that will surprise you, like, holy shit, I can get my hands on one of these. But that field manual is probably from the 90s, 2000s kind of thing. It's not working with the newest tech. It's kind of like when cell phones come out or technology comes out and everybody's like, oh, who knew that this existed? Well, the government's been using it for like the last 5 years, and that's the outdated shit for them. So all the stuff that you think is cool on your cell phone, no.
Well, typically they don't plan to release those things. They come out by accident. Like our current GPS, like for Apple Maps and Google Maps and stuff like that came out, I think, early 2010s, and it just dropped all of a sudden. Somebody accidentally hit a publish button down in a bunker somewhere, and that became public access. It got released onto a Wi-Fi stream. And all of
It's
a
like
sudden,
a cat landing on its feet after
Yeah,
it crashes
and
into a
all
lamp.
of a
I
sudden-
meant that. We meant that.
yeah,
Here
all
you
of
go,
a
a
sudden,
gift.
well, they tried to take it back, but inner city crashes, automobile crashes, skyrocketed because people were so used to having this down to the foot knowledge base for traffic, and they were like, it is now a public safety concern to keep it from people.
Yeah, do you guys remember when MapQuest first came out? I had a friend that drove down from Toronto, Canada to come to a seminar at my place, and he calls me up and he goes, where the hell am I? He's been driving around for a while, right? Because it got him within a 5-mile radius,
Mhm.
right? But he was in a residential area across the river over in Shamokin Dam looking for a dojo.
Uh-oh.
And he's like, I can't even find a Market Street, let alone.
And there's
Yeah.
market streets everywhere.
So I had to have, tell me. But back then,
Mhm.
GPS got you into the area,
Mhm.
but don't surrender your map. But people get used to that kind of stuff, and I'm still a big fan of maps and all that, because if shit goes down,
You should know how to plot an azimuth.
he or she with the skills, right? Especially the primitive skills. I'm not calling map reading primitive skills, right?
They're foundational. They're basic.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the ones that are going to be doing fine, right? Or better than everybody else. So anyway, yeah. So hobbies and whatnot, these things kind of cross over. But she's had internships. She worked with NCIS, not the TV show, right? Every time I say that, people go, "You mean the TV show?"
Yeah, I got somebody asked me if I was a background, like if I was a background
Background artist, yeah.
I was like, no.
What's a background artist? It's the people walking up and down the street, right?
Yeah.
Man in gray suit.
A third tree from the left.
That's awesome. Anyway, what else did you do? You almost went to Taiwan.
I was supposed to go to China twice through language programs through my
Yeah,
universities.
COVID came up.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to Taiwan, and then COVID came up. The military was going to sponsor that one.
Right.
And then I was supposed to go to Heilongjiang, which, if you're looking at China on a map, it's their version of Maine.
I saw it on a map. It's purple.
Yeah, it's the farthest northwest region.
Okay.
Harbin Normal School.
What is it again?
Heilongjiang.
See, easier for her to say.
It's the
I
province
do Japanese.
there. But that's the province name, and then Harbin is one of the primary cities. If anybody's ever heard of the Harbin Ice Festivals, really cool.
Oh, you didn't mean that wasn't a pun?
No, I told you I'm hilarious. I don't even notice it. But Harbin Normal School is part of a group that sponsors international language and cultural education, and I was supposed to go over there on a scholarship, but COVID also said no. So
COVID said no.
So I did a lot of online learning for my language skills.
Wasn't there something with a 3-letter agency that a kibosh got put to? Was that a COVID thing too?
The NSA was not. That was my own fear. I got accepted into a linguistics program. The acceptance letter got sent to my spam, and because I felt it was taking too long, I thought I was rejected and backed out. I found that letter 6 years later in my junk mail when I was cleaning out my university email. That
Wow.
one hurt. That one hurt.
Wow.
Could have worked for the NSA.
So somebody at the NSA thinks that you went, fuck you guys.
Yep, pretty much. My mom was like, you should probably send them an apology because
No, then you're going to sound like you're sucking up and stuff like that.
it's the government. If you don't get a job.
Anyway. Yeah, so lots of little things and whatnot. I'd say proud dad moment, but she did this all herself. And if I had anything to do with it, it was, I don't know, incidental. So,
Perseverance.
hoorah. Okay, so anyway, so I already gave everybody, a bunch of people have signed in late and whatnot, but I gave everybody kind of a heads up about you starting at about 2.5, because her and her older sister literally grew up in the dojo, right? They had no idea that this was not what everybody did, right? And so they both started about 2.5 officially on the dojo floor. Now, for the record, I don't start kids typically under the age of 4. I have started them as early as, I think I had one that I started at 3.
Mhm.
But I'll typically, like, if the child can speak well, they're not running off the floor to mom and dad, that kind of thing, and everything doesn't turn into a game. Um,
Or a
then
tantrum.
or a tantrum, yeah. Then I've started a couple of 3.5, but typically it's 4. And I have those criteria. Now I don't expect a kid to have like all kinds of discipline and whatnot, because our very very young kids class is actually run by Sensei McLaurin these days, but it's a blend of game and like disciplined martial arts training. It preps them for the bigger kids class when they've got to be paying attention. They have to stand still and show some discipline and stuff like that. But very very young children uh, do way better um, when things are in game format. And if you can make a game out of just about anything, like where you can switch them from playtime to paying attention time, right? You can speed up those parts of brain development. I mean, you can't work miracles, but you can speed them up, and then it that's what parents are bringing the kids here for anyway. And of course, the martial arts lessons and the self defense lessons are not like everybody else's. I am not teaching 4-year-olds, right, how to do Seon and Tangeki and stuff like that. They're learning how to get away from some adult abductor who picks them up, and they're going to scratch their eyes out and kick their gut until they get put down. And then, they've learned break falls and things like that.
That was fun.
A lot of obstacle course work for coordination.
I got so sad the day I outgrew our obstacle course pieces.
Escape and evasion stuff. Take them outside and walk them around the neighborhood and stuff, and have them identify like hiding places where they could get into that adults would have a hard time chasing them into and whatnot, as well as safety things like you can crawl under a car, but you can do that if it stopped at the red light. So they learn those things, right? But they grew up in the dojo, and so her moving out onto the floor was just a natural extension of her mimicking what the other kids were doing during class time. And so it was just a natural transition. It wasn't like, well, she's Sensei's daughter, so throw her to the wolves at 2.5, right? And then she's screaming and crying, and I don't want to do it. I don't care. You're going to survive and be a warrior. God damn it. Anyway, so.
It's like that now.
However, right? So I'm going to let her tell her side of the story, right? So, about your martial arts background, right?
Mhm.
How long in Ninjutsu? I'm going to ask the same questions I would ask of everybody else. How long in Ninjutsu? Rank attained? Have you studied or practiced any other martial arts or self-defense systems? If so, which ones? How long? That kind of thing, right? So,
Okay. So like you said, I've been doing this since I was 2.5. Trained steadily until I was about 6 or 7. And then my mom and I moved a bit further away, and I did not come to classes as regularly or pretty much at all for several years until maybe I was 13, 14.
yeah, summer vacations when you were with me.
Right. So I was doing a lot of the kids' camps and stuff like that. And then as I got into my teens, I turned into a little jerk, as most teenagers do. And I said, I don't want to do that.
Not my words.
No, these are I would have used worse words, but, YouTube.
Thanks for not getting us banned.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
Banned mid-live.
Wusses.
But yeah, I really did not want to be here. It became a bit like... on my mom's side, there was a lot of Catholic influence. So it became kind of like church. I don't want to get up in the morning. I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. I'm bored. Even though when you get there, I would have fun because I was still in the middle ranks, middle ages classes. And
She still came to class.
Oh, yeah. I
Dad
still
was an
did.
asshole.
But I bitched about it.
I don't want to go. And so I would say, and my answer is what?
I will be able to protect myself even when he's not around to make sure. So he will protect me even when he's not there in the form of me protecting myself.
Okay, well, that was her paraphrase, but the first thing she would do is roll her eyes and go, tough.
Oh,
Right?
well.
Yeah, you can not like it all you want, but it is my responsibility to make sure you stay safe. Mm-hmm. And so the older you get, the less time we're around each other. So that does not relieve me of my problem. And I'm also not a parent who can't shoulder discomfort, right? So, but either way, right? So now, once you went off to university, whatever.
Yeah, as I got older, the problems became more real, and I began to realize what you were talking about and why I needed this and why most people need this but don't realize it.
Now, there were a couple of incidents. I'm thinking junior high school. It was a Catholic school. Everybody thinks Catholic school, like, peace and, love and harmony and all
Catholic
that kind of
school
stuff.
is where the public school system sends kids who can't go to any more public school systems but have to serve under truancy. Sorry.
So they're still little jerks when they're there. Anyway, so I'm thinking a junior high school.
6th grade was one.
6th grade? Was there a high school one?
There were moments in high school where less, I mean, we can get into this later, but there was less of the physical side of defense and more of practicing awareness of people, how they felt about me, and what I could do to avoid a situation before it started.
Well, let's go back to that junior high school. That was a 6th grade thing, right?
Yeah.
So this one decided she was going to insert herself in between two boys that were fighting and break it up. And held her own pretty good until, like, I don't know, somebody shoved her and she hit the floor, and then everybody else
got concussed.
Jumped both of them because they knocked a girl around or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's been in a couple of little moments. I think she's just born to be a defender.
Well, when the only ginger classmate is turning purple in a headlock,
Right.
I was like, maybe not. So, but yeah, luckily
There's a different kind of joke in there, but I'm going to leave that one alone.
when I was about to get curb stomped, luckily some of the other boys were like, "You can't hit a girl," and they all decided that now was the time.
Meanwhile, she had inserted herself and did things. She maybe didn't hit somebody, but she was applying a couple of things to try to get them to break up.
Oh
so,
yeah, those that'll break up a headlock real good when somebody doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah. So, but you went to college, right? So IUP for your bachelor's,
yes,
undergraduate, and then you just graduated from Georgetown University with your master's, and now you're you're shopping for
PhD programs.
PhD programs, yeah.
So.
Trying to compete with your stepmom again. Anyway, so the criminology, psychology didn't throw me off because we've always had discussions about how people think and how they make decisions and those kind of things. The criminology threw me off, but you had discussed a couple of moments, not necessarily that you got jumped or anything like that, but you started to become more and more aware of the shit people do to people, right? And so, did that start in IUP? Did that happen in Georgetown, or? I mean, Georgetown. You were
in it.
Inner city DC.
Yeah.
So,
I think, believe it or not, it actually started before that. My concern for my own safety was concerningly delayed, but my concern for other people actually started back when I was working for the coroner's office.
I forgot.
Used to work
she got
with
a
dead
residency, not a residency, internship with a local county coroner's office. First time she saw a penis.
I forgot about that.
Was on a corpse. Anyway, I just happened to be there. My wife has been. She has a goal of working every job in existence, but she was a deputy coroner during the COVID outbreak, and so, I mean, before that, leading up, and this internship came up, and
it's usually reserved for college students, but I was 16 and had a free summer and a burning interest to do something.
So I mean, she's, and I think this I'll take credit for, where when she's wanted to do certain things, and where most kids would go, for instance, the horseback riding, right? Bajutsu, right? It's one of the Togakure school's skills, right? Bajutsu. She wanted to learn horse riding because we had summer camps for kids when she was smaller. And during each of these weeks, one of the one of the kids that was in my black belt program, his mom ran an equestrian farm. She bred. She was a teacher, like world class, and so I would take the kids out there, and she would give them like a half day kind of thing. They got lessons. They got like everything from care of a horse to how to bridle it to a riding lesson. And she came to me at one point and said, "I want to do riding lessons." And I went, "You come up with a way to pay for half of it."
English riding lessons are expensive.
English riding lessons, right? We're not talking about slapping a Western saddle on it,
No.
hopping in and going yippee-ki-yay-o.
I wanted to learn how to
letting
jump.
the horse lead you on a trail. No, this was jumping. This was
massage. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, like, how do I do that? Well, I guess you need to have a conversation with Miss Diana. And so that happened, and so anyway, she got a full scholarship, but that also meant that for weeks on end during her summer vacation, she was slinging hay and working at the farm, and then got 2 lessons a day. So she learned very early on, like, money doesn't have to be the issue. You can find a way. And I think that's a lost skill, but it's a ninja skill, right? Instead of focusing on what you can't do. And that's something that it wasn't like I pounded it in or whatever, like, figure it out, right? I help guide, but now when she wants to do something, she just figures it out, right?
I have this little quote on my computer. I have a bunch of them. My mom likes to give these little pop-out motivational things.
Sure.
They're like famous quotes. One that I have at the very top that I see all the time is, "Never let what you can't do get in the way of what you can do."
There you go. So, so working these things out.
So criminology started with the morgue.
Yeah. So, right. Because then you started to experience, like, these people didn't come in just because they dropped dead.
No,
some of these people came in.
And it wasn't just that. I realized I liked the forensic side of things. I have a bit of a morbid curiosity where I like seeing how things work. Yeah, I mean, I idolized, if anybody's...
She was offered the internship, and, like...
I cried. I was so happy.
You'd have thought that somebody threw a surprise party for her, and it was like the dream of a lifetime.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my favorite character, if anybody's ever seen NCIS, was Abby, the forensic person. And so I like that aspect of it. I got to do the tests. I got to, analyze the bodies. I got to take test fluids and stuff like that, take it to the lab. I got to do all that. But
Weird family we have here.
But I realized it felt too little too late. I wanted to be able to help the families and the peoples for the more criminological side of things, not just the people who died of a septic knee, which happens surprisingly frequently. You have no idea how many, because I ran the office, and you have no idea how many death certificates came in for a septic knee.
So get those green wounds.
Please get them treated. Good Lord. They will kill you. I'm not kidding. So that was my concern was it was too little too late to help people. And that's where I realized I wanted to go into potentially something more on the law enforcement side. I considered legal, hated that. Cause I always wanted to find the truth. That was another reason I liked the forensic side of things.
And not play around with this truth or that truth.
Well, I like the idea that forensics don't lie. Numbers don't lie. Science doesn't lie. It gives you proof. But if you work in the courtroom, that is not proof. That is a narrative for a story that can be spun in any direction. And that's something I've learned within intelligence is you have to be very careful with the intelligence you use, where you find it, who you get it from, and in what story you spin it. Because as analysts, we are bound by a code to remain unbiased. Psychologically, that's impossible. But we have to try our hardest, because if we are seen painting a picture, then the politicians stand no chance. Because if it's already corrupt from the beginning, then nobody stands a chance.
And we're gonna come back to that because the book that you're currently going through speaks volumes about a master teacher.
Yes.
Who, instead of just kind of going along with the traditional narrative, decided to apply the scientific process. And somebody jumped on that too, because it just spoke to them, right? I mean,
if I can't prove it, I don't stop.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I got to have a book. And then she went, book? And then, did you? And
yeah, you showed it a couple times. I think you mentioned it once or twice in class, and then you had it out on a podcast. And I remember typing into YouTube, like,
yeah, so we'll get back to that. But So we know when you actually got involved in Ninjutsu, what drew you back other than dad teaches? Because I mean that would have been easy,
Mhm.
but you were in DC. You were not State College, but Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I
There
was
are
near
martial arts
Pittsburgh.
schools everywhere. There are self defense classes everywhere. What drew you back? What drew you to this? Other than like you did the kids program and now you had to
Right.
cross over to do the adult program.
I had been following it, obviously not actively, but I had seen it throughout my entire life that people walked through these doors every day with any manner of background, any manner of credentials in the fighting realm or anything like that, and you constantly kick their ass. And so it kind of gave me a little in training, that kind of
What do
thing.
you mean
So
I kicked their ass?
you could put down their techniques. You could still
Oh,
it worked. What it showed me was it worked constantly. And when I got into my university era, and I broke up with my long term partner, I didn't have bodyguards anymore. I didn't have you. I didn't have a big scary boyfriend. I didn't have anything like that. I realized that the truth of what you had told me when I was younger, that you wouldn't always be there, in person, I was alone. And I had to be able to take care of me because I had no one. I was primarily I was living in DC, and not only were there university students where you hear the stories of college boys and that kind of thing, but I lived in Chinatown. That's not a safe area to live in. I was a mile from the Capitol building. There were riots constantly.
Hmm.
I had weeks worth.
Really?
Yeah, I had.
Say it's not so.
I had weeks worth of classes canceled.
I'm being an ass at this point, but
Yeah, we had weeks worth of classes canceled because not only students but professors were worried about driving into the city during some of these protests. During election week, we canceled class for 2 weeks because we didn't know which way it was going to go, and either way, it was going to get ugly. And so I realized, one, I realized I was alone. Two, I remembered this works, and I've never seen it not work, which is a biased assessment because, one of the questions was, have I ever been in any other fighting style? No, this is it. You see movies, you see the YMCA program while I was on the way to swim, you see the Karate Kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any of that. And I realized if I wanted to be able to take care of myself, this was the first step. And I'll be honest, I was not doubtful, but hesitant because you are my dad. And I didn't want to have that cognitive bias of just listen to what he says, it'll work no matter what. I wanted to go in with it with a grain of salt to test for myself. Do I feel comfortable? Does this feel correct?
And I have a different sensitivity because I never want anyone to think that you have the rank that you have because it was given to you.
I hope not. I'm still in Sankyu, man. It's taken 20 years to get a green belt. I hope not.
Well, you came back and got into the adult program.
Oh, yeah.
So I think when you first came back, it was for the physical self-defense stuff, right? And then the more, because you really dove into, you were on most KUDENs, you watch Whiteboard Wednesdays, all those kind of things, and things just kind of kept loading in.
It tickled my brain.
And so the psychology, the sociology, all these kind of things, all the ologies that I don't throw
all
these
the
words
sciences.
around, but that's really what high-level warriors and ninja, right? And they're not mutually inclusive, right? You have a high-level bushi that would get into things as well, became artists and writers and research things. They Takuma Sensei was a very high-ranking Tendai priest. I think it was a bishop of a small temple, right? Because kind of got it. He didn't. I don't mean this the wrong way. He when I say he got enough of the physical stuff, it wasn't about like I'm bored with that or I'm tired with that or whatever, but it starts to cross over, right? And he wanted to explore the other realm, right? And so that throws people off a lot because he was also a spy, Anyway, so today, right? where do you get the most value, right? Uh, what are you looking to get out of your training? And it can be multifaceted, but
It
what's
is
the big thing?
the so this is a bit of a what did you learn today?
I ask that at the end of every
Yep,
class.
and I'm learning that I don't know enough of any of it, and that could just be my
Me too.
my lust for knowledge.
I don't know enough about
But
any of it.
the physical side of things, I'm realizing how low level, how broad everything that I've learned up to this point is, and I need to catch up on that. That's a primary, or one of my primaries, for the physical side of things, because I don't see a black belt as, oh, I'm this high level thing and I see all the black belts in Shinobi Kai. I've been in Shinobi Kai since I was about 15, wearing whatever Kyo belt I was in.
Because she had no choice.
No, I had no choice. Family that slays together stays together. But I do see it as an accomplishment of something that I want to work up to and beyond.
Mm.
It's a point of pride for me of I can do these things. And I want to be able to protect myself to that level and beyond. So I see it as that on the physical side of things.
But the juicy stuff right now is
The
what?
juicy stuff is all up here. The biggest thing, I mean,
If I said I was starting a dedicated kunoichi female ninja kind of thing,
Miss Chris, let's go. Let's go. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, studying the psychology of all these things, there are things that, men and women are better at, and different, perspectives, and I would love to dive into a class of the female ninja. That would be, oh, you tickled my brain again. Damn it. But the primary thing that I'm looking into is,
you're looking at the psycho-spiritual side of things.
Well, I've broken it down into, there's a psycho-socio-cultural, spiritual. It's a multifaceted thing. Nobody has a program that covers everything, and I'm struggling. But I wanna look into these convergences of importance, because everything is important to somebody, but very rarely is everything important to one person. And what I think is missing, not in the curriculum, but in a lot of people's understanding of the curriculum, is that to pick and choose is to blind yourself to vital aspects of things. And I never want to do that. I mean, we'll talk about this later, but the book that he mentioned goes into the traditional educational classics, the literature that samurai and high-level warriors were given, their children were given. I mean, they learned...
It was a reading list for kids.
Yeah, they learned reading and writing by copying out these things. And I'm seeing so much of what could be so helpful to people, but they're put off by the idea of history or literature or homework.
Well, they just want to know where to put the foot and how to hold the sword.
Right, but without the mindset, I mean, the brain is the, I'm going to get into my thesis. The brain is the seat of everything. It controls what your body, why your body, everything. And if you don't have the proper mindset, your body will never follow suit. I mean, you were talking about the way the Bushi do things versus the way the ninja do things. There were vital pieces that didn't just make them Bushi or ninja. It made them people of their time. And without those key pieces, you are missing part of what makes you a human in that aspect. And that's the juiciest part of it for me.
And both of them were trying to be suprahuman. Not superhuman. They don't need to be bitten by a radioactive spider.
No, just unlock the true potential.
Absolutely. Like, how far can we take this kind of thing, right? And then there's transition periods as well. Hatsumi Sensei has always said, if you're in your 20s, train like you're in your 20s, right? If you're in your 40s, train like you're in your 40s. If you're in your 70s, train like you're in your 70s, because nature still can't be avoided. And I get it. People wanting to stay as young and vibrant and all that kind of stuff as long as possible. Absolutely. I'm 100% there. But we still can't deny certain things. And we joked about this today, right? You were talking about the picture that your mom took in 2004 of me and several black belts climbing the wall
Mhm.
of Nijo Castle,
Mhm.
right? Because there are these pictures of ninja climbing, those castle abutments and things like that, right? And so we changed into our garb, right? Did a photo shoot, and then we were climbing these things.
Mhm.
And what'd you say? My
No more
wall
climbing walls for
climbing
you.
days are over. But that just that what that really points to is, and I'm glad that I was prepared for this by Hatsumi Sensei, that my Geinin field operative days are over.
Mhm.
The way most people think of it,
Mhm.
right? Because somebody asked Hatsumi Sensei, I don't know, last year or something like that, right? And then they said it very condemningly, right?
Mhm.
There weren't fat ninja, were there? And Hatsumi Sensei said, of course there were fat ninja. There were ninja of all sizes and whatnot. How do you think that they were able to infiltrate certain areas and do certain things?
If you all look like
If
GI
y'all
Joe,
look
you're
like,
kind of
yeah,
obvious.
so, but everybody has this idealistic fantasy kind of thing, right? But Hatsumi Sensei being a Jonin and training us to be Jonin, you can choose to be Geinin. You can choose that thing. But just remember, that side of ninjutsu, they were the pawns,
Mhm.
right? They were the expendables. Okay. And you wear out really fast physically doing that kind of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Chunin, while they were like M and the 007 kind of things and whatnot, choosing the operations and whatever,
You're
but
facilitators.
they still knew what the upper echelon needed, right?
Mhm.
And so you kind of divvy these things out. But now we're getting into the different realms of psychology and human nature and things like that, right? And of course, they still have taijutsu. They still have to be able to fight and defend themselves. But now it's as a backup
Mhm.
because the weapon
Mhm.
is here.
Right.
The weapon is, getting people to do things. But again, the Chunin were still pretty much secret, right? Just like the Geinin and whatnot, right? But the guy that's the secret is the one that's like out in everybody's face,
Mhm.
right? The Jonin is out in public, meeting everybody, hobnobbing with them, because that's how you learn about what's going on, community, the world, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And um, anybody that looked at them would never suspect that they were a ninja, right? So then the Geinin has to use camouflage and all kinds of wild 007 kind of secrecy kind of things to not be noticed. The Chunin has to make sure that the field operatives don't flip to the other side because he's their direct contact, right? But only a few of the Chunin knew who the Jonin was, and nobody out in the fucking world.
Mhm.
Now, the Jonin still needs to know how to protect themselves just in case, whatever. But that's the realm where you're living in a realm where everybody would look at you and go, "Him?
Mhm.
No way!" Right? And that's some cool shit, right? So anyway, that being said, we'll come back to some of these other questions just to kind of round things out. But let's stay on this because I think something clicked earlier. Was it last year? Yeah, because we're coming up on
25. Yeah, it was camp of 24. Fall camp of 24.
fall camp of 24,
Yep.
right? Something clicked just before that. And that was even before I wrote the Seishin Teki Kyoyo book,
Yes.
right? Okay, because you've been using that. Well, I think that was an impetus, or did you read that one?
It was
yet?
as an accompaniment to this.
To accompany to Manaka Sensei's thing, because he only focuses on three
He
of the
focuses on the
minds
three,
that
yeah.
that I cover in that Seishin Teki Kyoyo book. So, but somewhere between spring camp and fall camp, something clicked,
Mhm.
and it clicked around the Sanmitsu, the
Mhm.
triple secrets, because you've done some of the pre Mikyo
Mhm.
and I call them Mikyo light
Mhm.
kind of things, because doing you're not a Mikyo student.
Mm-mm.
You're like
I study Mikyo. I don't practice
you're doing
Mikyo.
like Ninpo Mikyo, where it's an aspect and you're using what suits,
Mhm.
what is beneficial compared to what everything else you're doing. You're not like Sensei Major and Terrence and whatnot, who have become personal Mikyo
Practitioners,
students,
right.
where we're
Mhm.
working
Yeah.
through these things.
I see it as truth is truth. It doesn't matter where it comes from.
Yeah. So, but you jumped on that
Mhm.
so much so that you wanted to do a breakout session for last fall camp, right? So some people were there, some were not. So that was really, I think, your start into the psychology of things, because the Sanmitsu is really about success. And you used a phrase earlier because it matches your dissertation and stuff like that. And I talk about this a lot, this cognitive dissonance, right? So talk about that a little bit and how you see the Sanmitsu, these triple secrets, right? They're sometimes called the three mysteries, right? It's the channeling of thought, word, and deed in one direction and not being split as a person, right? To get things done. So first, the phrase.
Oh, the phrase was using the Sanmitsu as a prescription to treat cognitive dissonance.
To treat cognitive dissonance, like cognitive dissonance is a disease. It's an illness.
It's a disorder.
It is a disorder.
It is,
Absolutely.
in the truest dictionary definition of the word disorder, your brain is in disorders and disarray.
Right. Because you're trying to hold two or more conflicting beliefs or ideas or truths about the same thing, right? And they don't jive. And see, this is her specialization. I'm just a hobbyist at this.
I just wrote an academic paper. I'm working on getting published on it.
I'm an amateur. She's the professional. I do okay, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So, but we are designed to minimize friction and confusion for ourselves. So, and she can tell you the whole scientific process to how it happens, but I just blame ego for everything. And so it's just a base kind of thing, right? Because the average human being needs somebody else to blame, even though ego is them. So
ego is you.
But what we do is we drop the most difficult to fix part of the cognitive dissonance, right? These two things, because we'll always choose, not we, right? Hopefully not us, but.
Oh, no, it's you.
Yeah. Which is why we always have to self-check, right? We will always lean into that which is the most comfortable, the easiest and whatnot, or the easiest to reconcile, because the other one's it's just too damn hard, right? And so that's what we lean into, right? But what we don't recognize is that there's cognitive dissonance going on in these other areas. And again, we're just talking about thought, word, and deed, right? And thought is not what most people translate it as. It's just a bad translation. Thought is actually intent. It's your subconscious, unconscious belief systems, perspectives, viewpoints, those kind of things that are running on autopilot.
I call it identity.
Yeah. It's the stuff that's filtering everything else. Thought, like most people think of, planning, thinking, decision making, that all goes under word, right? So but word is your bridge between the internal world and the external world, right? And then there's the physical body, deed, right? But we have cognitive dissonance running for all of these things. And then when we go and resolve things to do the easiest or do the stuff that we're already good at, right? Then what we don't recognize is that there's a dissonance between the internal world and the belief system and what we're saying and what we're acting, and how this conflict is still going on. And again, I'm the amateur here. She's doing this thing. I've got Josh on. He's a psychiatrist. Everybody has their way to kind of describe this stuff. But anyway, so I think the breakout session was the Sanmitsu in light of.
That was the psychological validation, the Western psychological validation of the Sanmitsu and how it can be applied. So basically, I just walked people through I mean, you can argue these because language is a construct, but I walk people through some definitions we would hold to of what is knowledge, what is truth, what is belief, what is fact, what is opinion, what is information, what is all these different things, so that they could solidify these pieces to understand that your mind. I liked this phrase that I used on one of the PowerPoint slides. Your mind is made up before you ever made up to make your mind. Your mind is made up before you ever made up your mind to make your mind your own.
My first Mikyo teacher defined reality as what do you call them? A synthesis and accumulation. It's based on your previous experiences
Mhm.
and knowledge, study, those kind of things, right? And if left unchecked, will in turn determine your reality.
Well,
Right.
one of the key things that I pointed out was a lot of us, we say we're still learning, well into our 20s and 30s, but we're pretty set and solidified because not only, they always say parents are living vicariously through their kids, vice versa as well. Kids build their understanding of the world and how it works around what they learn overtly and covertly from their parents.
And whether they flip the switch to emulate
Mm-hmm.
or to run counter to.
Well, that's the pain pleasure theory of, is this working for them or not?
Right.
Am I going to follow it or not? And so I went into this idea that you are likely making, well, not likely, you're making decisions on a daily basis based on a routine that you didn't build, based on information that you didn't check, based on decisions that you never made.
Right.
And so I broke it down into the thought, word, and deed, and explained, what the English translation is better versus the Japanese translation, which is very contextual, as are most glyphic and Asian languages. And I went into the definition of something that I recently found a term for, which is neurocognitive homeostasis, which, breaking it down, just means ego is more of a psych term. This is more of a neuro term, in the sense that you have built your brain to continue being as you are now. And it is very difficult to break that cycle. It's very much like trying to lose weight. Your body gets scared when you're in a stress mode. Your brain gets scared when you're in a stress mode and shuts down anything it thinks it can't rely on, even if what it's relying on is unreliable. But it doesn't know that, because that's what it's built on. So
well, that's why abused people
they
tend to stay
find
with
abusers.
Either the abuser, or when they leave that one and they find another
find
one,
a new one.
They have a different name and they have a different look, or maybe the way they dress or whatever, but it's the same personality. And if you ask those people why you don't just choose somebody else, they say, because I know what's going to happen here. I don't know what's going to happen over there, and that's scary as shit.
And you're always talking about in class, are you willing to give up bad for good and good for better?
Right.
And
most people are
the
not.
short answer is no.
Most people are not. They
Right.
want to do this, but
they are unwilling to give up the security.
They don't live. If maybe it would be different if they lived in the Warring States period.
You change
Things
when
would
you
not
die.
be better. Yeah. So, but comfort's a bitch.
Well, comfort is subjective, because quite often comfort is not found in happiness. Comfort is found in complacent survival.
Ease.
Yeah. Right.
We're not fighting another battle today, so I can breathe.
Right.
Right. To do this, you're in a constant state of whether you're checking yourself, or you're checking your techniques, or you're testing it against a different type of incoming attack or whatever. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable to walk this path.
And with the Sanmitsu framework, so many people because I've heard this before, are so ready to jump on other people. Oh, their words and actions aren't aligned, blah, blah. The hardest thing is checking yourself.
Absolutely.
Because ego, your own brain chemistry, your history, other people's viewpoints of you, have a very strong chokehold on your own self-identity and your own self-worth.
Well, people will often ask, and I've got family members, friends, or whatever. We could all be together. They could be telling me a story about somebody doing something,
Mhm.
right? They're not, the integrity's not there, the
Mhm.
congruency's not there, or whatever. And they'll say, well, what do you have to say about this? Or, doesn't that upset you or whatever? And sometimes it does,
Mm.
right? Well, what do you have to say about it? Nothing. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean I accept it. It doesn't mean I don't accept it, because as a Buddhist, I try to be accepting of everybody. That doesn't mean I agree with their things.
Mm.
Accepting somebody does not mean agreeing. It means that I accept them for who they are.
Because I can't change it.
There's nothing. Shikata ganai. There's nothing to be done.
Yes.
There's nothing that I can do.
Mhm.
That is such an important phrase. I think I made that a topic of a KUDEN.
A
right?
balance of action and inaction.
It's just, whatever. But it's not that. It's not coming from that. One of my teachers a long time ago had me do the stop and think kind of thing, right? So for those who have done Mikyo and the pre-Mikyo stuff know that we have this 12-fold chain of dependent origination, which is just another way to describe karma, but it's not as simple as some of the other ways, right? And that's what you were alluding to before. Things have been decided beforehand, right?
Mhm.
There's this ignorance begets volition. Volition just means action. That could be thought, that could be word, that could be deed, whatever. That begets consciousness. That begets name and form, because things crystallize as soon as you give it a name, right? And then it gets tucked into consciousness. That gets translated into the five senses. That gets, just all this stuff, right? But ignorance is not something that you have.
Correct.
Anybody that chooses to be ignorant, like, well, I know that that's what way it is, but it's just easier for me to live this way, right? Well, okay, I got nothing, right? So, but the ignorance we're talking about is subconscious viewpoints, beliefs, those kind of things that are making a decision until you get to a point where you want something, or you want the opposite, or you want to stop something or whatever, and you start to reach out to grab that same thing. And I'm using that figuratively, because it could be physical, it could be you're entertaining the thought, whatever, right? And this is the point where you cut ignorance, because that's the point where you become aware of this internal driver,
Mhm.
right? There's a desire, and then you start, right? So we have to ask, is this conducive to what I want to be, what I'm trying to accomplish? Because whether or not I grab that thing, or do the opposite, or at that moment I have the opportunity for clarity, I may still reach out and grab that thing, but I did it consciously.
Knowingly.
I did it knowingly, not habitually, right?
Yes.
And so, because that thing, the next part of the chain after that is becoming. And that's determined by what gets grasped, by what decision I make. And again, it's too fucking hard for a lot of people. So they don't have to do that kind of thing, right? So, well, I'm just too old to change.
Well, the hardest
Well,
thing to change
the
are
belief
little
that you're too
things.
old to change is either a cop out, or you really do believe that there's nothing that you can do. In which case, I don't know why the hell you're here doing something like this, because if you can't change, or there's no point, or the man is out to get you, or you got 15 thumbs on you, or you're so overly controlled, well, then shikata ga nai. There's nothing you can do. If you're right about it, then. But see, I have always gone by, and again, this was one of those quotes way back in the day, because I used to collect them. You are never given a dream, a goal, or something that you want to reach for, right? That's the problem with the new dojo.
Yeah, you guys hear the train?
It's a good thing I'm not a hobo. I could have jumped that. Anyway, so that you can't attain. The question isn't whether you can or can't. It's whether you will go after it. It's whether you will do. It's whether you will pay the price that is required to have that thing, right? So, but one of the exercises that I was given to cut that, knock somebody else, right? Catch them, because ego is judgmental as hell, right? It's always easier to catch somebody else doing it because, God is our ego is already a self-assumed itself God, right? Was to, as soon as I catch myself having those condemning thoughts or pointing that thing out, was to stop and honestly remember when I did that or something like that or said that or something like that. And ego wants to resist that in the beginning, and then you go through a phase where it's uncomfortable, and then eventually it's just like, you know, yeah. Now, I'm not going to knock them for it, right? The only time I would ever attack somebody or whatever. Now, I do lots of KUDENs, I do lots of Whiteboard Wednesdays where I point out people doing dumb shit because sometimes they need to be woken up and called on it. They may not know they're doing it. They may think it's perfectly normal, whatever. Okay? But as a teacher, my job is to make sure that students aren't doing dumb things that gets them hurt or gets somebody else hurt. And so, as a warrior, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? When I first started on that path and teaching in that way and not just being nice and whatever, that wasn't comfortable because, how many people are going to not continue following the Whiteboard Wednesday? They could really use it. You know what? Chikatanai. So I can't do anything about that. My job is to teach those things. Anyway, so, but again, catching ourselves doing those things. So it was the short of it. If you weren't there, right? I think James, are these the
They're recorded.
Yeah, they're recorded. The recording's still available. I don't know that we've promoted them or whatever, but
I have one in my portfolio.
Yeah, no, you have it in there, but I mean, we have them, and I just don't know that recently they've gone out as an offer to anybody. I have thought about breaking them up instead of offering the whole thing, but I think we're also at a point now where everybody and their brother is teaching taijutsu, that people can pick and choose the seminars they're going to and whatever, and I just kind of accept that for what it is. And not everybody's all about as I said earlier, right? The fat old bald guy, what could he possibly know? Even though the fat old bald guy used to climb castle walls and
they look at the 23-year-old girl and goes, she has no experience with anything, and she's a girl. What is she doing talking about experience or leadership and strategy and warfare? And
yeah, and we'll get to that too. So, but that was like the beginning of things, and I think that the dam broke after that.
And it didn't just break academically; it really did break lifestyle-wise and spiritually. It and I'm not going to go into the spiritual side of things because that's personal for everybody. But realizing the system, the framework of Sanmitsu, and how many people were living non-maliciously ignorant of it and how it works and how it can benefit you, I became quite a ray of sunshine, honestly, realizing that everyone is lying to me. And I say that provocatively on purpose. What I mean,
and even if they don't know it.
Well, what I mean is, all of us, every single one of us, regardless of what level you are on this path, you lie to yourself on a daily basis for the little things. I mean, even when you go to get up for class, my knees don't hurt right now. It's fine. Go. That kind of thing. You make it reality, so reality gets done. And then you come back to truth and you can take care of it.
Well, part of the truth too is that I can dictate my actions. I'm not limited to instinct or strictly pain or pleasure kind of thing.
And so I realized, once I realized everyone lies to themselves, why would they suddenly tell me the truth? It made navigating relationships with strangers, friends, family so much easier because, like I said earlier, I work at Walmart.
Easier, not turning into a pessimist or a nihilist or whatever.
I became happier than ever realizing the true base nature of humans, because not only could I check myself and my own sorrows, one of the biggest teachings in Taoism, which is another sect that I've studied in Eastern philosophy, is to go against nature is to cause suffering.
Hmm.
And along with Confucianism, another philosophy sect, all humans are teachable and perfectible at all level of being human. So what you were discussing before, if you're 20, train like you're 20, if you're 40, train like you're 40, and so on. All humans are teachable and perfectible, but to go against nature is to cause suffering. So perfect yourself to the degree that perfection is possible. And I'm realizing that whether people have access to this education or not, whether they're choosing to be ignorant on purpose or not, they have achieved the level of perfection possible for them right now. So to hold anything against them is to beat a child black and blue for not knowing what an electrical outlet is.
Sure.
They're already punishing themselves. They already got the shock. Why should I shun them for it instead of maybe smile, brighten their day, give them a piece of information that I learned, and maybe guide them towards something? I became so much.
That's interesting. I think you swung to the opposite extreme, which is fine because you'll swing back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Because what I did with you guys
Mhm.
is if anything was going to head for that electrical outlet,
Mhm.
right? I wasn't the parent who went, now don't put that in there.
Mhm.
There's electricity in there and you'll get shocked and you could die.
Well, you can't
At
do
that
either.
age,
No.
Electricity, shock, die.
I have no idea what that means.
I just fired up their explorative mind like, what is this?
Touch that.
Right? Yeah.
Where's a
But,
fork?
and again, so I could become, this is 2025, so I could be the abusive parent, but I would take them by the hand and go, if you put that in there, it's going to hurt worse than that. Because I'm speaking to that mind, not an adult brain in a little kid's body.
Right.
And you guys were like, note to self.
And that works. I mean, I've studied in my undergrad, I studied very heavily into child rearing techniques and the cultural and personal effects on both the child and the parent afterwards.
Sure.
Did it work? Did it not? That kind of thing, for primary parenting techniques, that sort of thing. And again, this would not work on a child, but when I deal with adults, I cannot control if they touch the outlet.
Right.
But whether they learn the lesson is not up to me.
That's right.
It's whether they are prepared to or not.
That's
and
right.
some people make it all the way to their grave and are still in that childlike mind of selfish internalism. And I can't change that. And so it sounds backwards, but I became happier realizing that because I became released from a responsibility that was never mine. It's the idea of, I mean, people might understand it as people pleasing, trying to fix the whole world, trying to slap a Band-Aid on, everything. You can't. So save your Band-Aids for your bad days because you can't fix everybody else's.
Yeah, I've found that the personal development path that when I was working on me, when I jettisoned the don't focus on yourself, that's being selfish. When I was taught by a teacher that you must be selfish because until you can get a handle on yourself, until you can fix you can't help anybody else without diminishing your own resources, right? And so how do you do this? How do you walk this path unless you're going to be selfish? But we're taught as children. Now, what we don't, and again, this is that ignorance thing. The child learned don't be selfish, right? In the face of, it's my freaking toy. I don't want to have to share. But anyway, right? So you're taught to not be selfish. But this is the same. I still equate this to upper level Q levels or lower level black belt levels. Making mistakes with lower level techniques or running into a roadblock because they can't proceed because there's something wrong with their basics. But in their head, I learned that. I passed the test. I got the belt for that. But what they're missing is that you learned that at this level with how many weeks or months experience
Mhm.
in this art, and your ability then to understand the principles and concepts and whatnot. So you passed at the standards that were set at that level,
Mhm.
knowing you would continue to learn. Same thing. As children, we learned certain lessons with a mind that had only had so much experience,
Mhm.
couldn't correlate. There were all kinds of functions that not only were they not switched on, but that part of the brain didn't even grow yet, right? And we're operating as adults, but the
Right.
6-year-old is still driving.
Well, the unfortunate part with that, I believe, it's not
me.
always people not growing. It's the idea that they were given something by what our brain considered as an ultimate authority.
Yeah.
And so you don't question ultimate authorities. I mean, anybody religious out there, you don't question God.
Another one of those lessons, right? Who told you that the person who told you that, right? What did you check to make sure they validated the information?
Right. But you
Right?
don't do that because mom told
Because you
me not
trusted
to
them.
touch the thing, and she was right. Mom told me I don't like peas, she was right. So when you count those things up, but back to what you were saying about being selfish to a certain degree. I won't get into the weeds of it, but part of my thesis was studying the neurological output of frequencies, magnetic frequencies by the brain. Electromagnetic waves come out from your brain
Oh, we're
because
going to get into
activity.
Manaka Sensei's
Yeah,
book soon.
yeah. So
Coming up.
activity is happening, and so when you become a better version of yourself, you behave like a magnet. You will either attract more of what you are putting off.
It's resonance.
You will repel that which cannot stand to be around you, which may be your lifelong friends, it may be your family. It happens. Or you will do something which is getting a bit into auditory frequencies. There's something that's called a binaural beat, and it's when two frequencies, one enters your brain on this side, one enters your brain on this side, and your brain harmonizes before it syncs. So what it will do is it will create a phantom tone between two frequencies of the difference between the two before it finally syncs with everything. So everybody always says,
No, we're not going to get into what she's working with for
That's
three-letter
national-
agencies
that's
and
national
shit
security. We won't
to
get into
be
that.
getting people to be more harmonious in a certain direction.
No, but I mean, I hear people so frequently talk about, you'll either attract more like or you'll get rid of the opposite. But what can also happen is your own electromagnetic output can harmonize with those who are already there, but not quite there yet. And you can influence and help them simply by becoming the best version of yourself. And I know that sounds like your term woo-woo.
Nope, yep.
But there is a sign. If you want to read my paper, you can read it. Just look into electromagnetic harmonic frequencies. There's a reason we create or experience compatibility with people, and it's not just because it's always just there.
Well, and that's
we can cultivate.
That's what I was taught by teachers in this art.
Josh, call me out if I'm wrong.
Long time ago, and I followed that path, and sure enough, the kind of people that would disturb my world just started to go away because they didn't like being around somebody who was upbeat or direct or whatever, right?
All my depressed friends disappeared.
Yeah. And the kind of people that I want to surround myself with just started showing up and whatnot, right? Now, it doesn't always work that way because some people have, they have
frequency blockers.
Well, they have a lack of self-confidence or whatever, and they want to be, but somehow they wouldn't, they believe they would. I had that.
They
right?
can't take the step.
I mean, the amount of time it took for me to reach out to Stephen Hayes, who I saw at this level, and, because my frequency had been developed, all kinds of abuse and demeaning kind of things and self-image and whatnot. And I was still at a long distance. I mean, I was halfway around the planet when I wrote that letter, and when I sent that letter. But when I finally walked into that dojo, and the harmony clicked with these people, right? It's and sometimes people can relate to this too, where you meet a lot of people in your life, and I have very few people that I consider to be a friend. When I say friend, I mean somebody that it is a kindred spirit, and there is like a sense of self, like they're like me, kind of thing, right? Because I'm an odd puppy, right? I'm one of those people that I'm not picking and choosing. If there is something that will allow me to be better, act better, experience better, those kind of things, like I'm all in, right? And that's so. Uh,
I have the college
but
debt to prove it.
all of those people, um, first time we met, it was like we'd always known each other, and we may have gone through the platitudes of, you know, so are you married? Do you have any kids? You know, whatever, right? That was just moot kind of positioning within the conventional realm, kind of thing, right? The everyday world, but that connection,
Mm-hmm.
and so none of us bitch and moan and complain that they don't call or they don't stay in touch or whatever. Some of my closest friends, which sounds completely counterintuitive, haven't spoken to each other for months or years or whatever. And then we connect, we get the day to day out of the way. Like, holy shit, your kid's 10 years older or 20,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, right? Get that kind of stuff out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like we just talked to each other last week.
My best friend and I work in the same building like 5 days out of the week. I have not spoken to her in a month.
Yeah. And
But every time we get together, it's for a purpose.
but there's a I absolutely believe in that resonance kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
because you meet these people and there's a click, but they're on that same wavelength,
Mhm.
right? And it's not like I'm out to get something or whatever. It's like and it can be a huge surprise as well, right? But you just start treating them like you've known them forever, and there's just a click, and that's and this is not the same level that most people operate on, where I've known this person for a long time, so we are friends.
Mm.
I like the Japanese approach to things, and I don't know how the Chinese do it, but the Japanese have multiple names for friends, and it positions the person. Like there's a word for that person's a friend from like school or work, or that kind of thing,
Mhm.
right? Where it positions it, but everybody would understand. Oh, you may or may not invite him over to your house for a cookout,
Mm-hmm.
right? For the Japanese to invite you to their house, they're like opening up their womb to you. They're
Mhm.
opening up their world, right? And so you always take a gift,
Mhm.
right? Because you understand the level that is, right? And so it's not like we're friends because we've known each other for a long time, and then that gets squirreled into, well, of course, they're a friend. You do anything for friends, even if it lands you in jail. Screw you. My friends would never do shit like that, and they would never put me in that kind of position. And
My
if I
friends would
ended up
tell
in
me
that
I'm a
position,
dumbass.
it was because I got a phone call and they said, "Hey, I'm stuck here. My daughter is in a college right near you.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, could you check on her? I haven't heard from her in days." Right? Now I may be walking into the friggin' lion's den, but yeah, no problem, dude. Absolutely. Right? But not because there's a sense of owing or whatever.
Mhm.
It's just a
Well,
like
when you have that resonant sense of self, that carries over into what matters to you coincidentally matters to me. So if, in that same example, that's your daughter in that moment.
Yeah.
That is your life.
Yeah. And see, the way Mikio would describe this is that instead of nihilism, right, the destruction of ego, because you see this in all these books, and it's just a bad translation, right? Because you can't destroy the manos vijnana, the center that we call ego, that differentiates me here, you there, that there, whatever, right? If you destroyed that, you'd be freaking wandering around as a slobbering fool because you couldn't navigate the world.
You'd be
right?
a hive-minded zombie.
Yeah. So what? So what you're destroying is ego's sense of godness or dictating what the world should be. And so the way Mikyo does it is to actually expand ego so big, not unchecked, right? It's not a sense of megalomania,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't fix that once that happens. But what you're doing is you're expanding it to include others,
Mm.
right? And so if you're a parent and you have children and you know what that's like, that you would rather die than to have them suffer, that kind of thing. Or if somebody hurts them, you feel the pain, or they get their heart broken, right? Whatever. Okay. Same thing with a significant other, whatever. People in your, so when I describe people that I consider to be friends, I have students that are on a friend level. I have people in my life that are for most people they would call them friends, but I split them down because there are acquaintances, there are whatever,
They're
right?
community members.
There's levels of connection, and the it's the connection, right? And so the point of it in Mikyo is to expand ego out to include more and more and more people that resonance is there for, where compassion is, I truly do feel their pain.
Mhm.
I don't just say, oh, I'm sorry for your loss, kind of thing, right? I'm not an island in a vacuum, right? In a Ziploc bag, right? That's looking at the world, but when I touch it, it's not real, right? It's, I'm touching it through these layers, right? Where you involve all that until what ends up happening is ego loses its ground,
Lose its power,
because it's not an individual thing.
which ironically feeds into this a little bit, because what you just described is, in my opinion, a Western mind opening into a community-based structure,
Yeah.
into a homogeneous population.
Yeah. Now, ultimately, I will make individual decisions about what I'm doing and who I will be helping. However,
well, you have to in the environment we're in.
I'm not doing it from an obligatory sense, right? I have detached from family members because they're toxic. I accept them for who they are, and I love them at a certain level. Again, that's contradictory for a lot of people, because things are either something or they're not, and two things can be they can be true at the same time, right? Like I can admire Hitler for the things that he dreamt up that we all benefit from, like the interstate system known as the Autobahn in Germany was a Hitler brainchild. There were a whole bunch of things, right? But I can still detest the things that everybody else hates about him. But I can also appreciate the almost magnetic personality, right? The ability to lead, right?
I wrote a leadership essay on Hitler my freshman year.
Follow like a dream, a vision. That was a fucked up vision, but it's not about the vision. It's the ability to have one and follow it
to that degree.
I
mean, Hitler started in prison.
Yeah. So, but people would think now, oh, you're pro Hitler. No, I detest, right, all these things. But these two things can exist at the same time. But as Westerners, we've been taught that they can't. Like, you can only be one religion. You can only be one political party. You can only be, right? It's like, now it's all zeros and ones, right? It's no wonder people are so fragmented and feel so lost. It's because they're taught that you can't integrate. You can't be unique. You got to choose a group, or you're the round peg, and you can only fit into one of the best sociological or psychological videos somebody sent me, right? Oh, it was just driving people crazy. Okay. You know those kids games where you've got different shaped
Yeah, and you
holes
put 'em
in the
in-
thing, right?
yeah.
And then you put these things
I
in,
think
right?
I remember this one.
So that they, which peg fits in the round hole, and the person picks up the round peg and drops it in the round hole, right? And like that was very good, right? And then they and I think there's two people, right? Because one person's doing it, and the other person's like, I know, right?
Uh-huh.
And so, which peg fits in the square hole? And this person's like, and the other person picks up the round peg and brings it over, and they're like, no, and drops it right in the square hole, right? Very good. That fits in the square hole, right? And which one fits in the triangular hole? And will this round peg fit in every freaking
hole,
right? And so it was just driving the other person crazy because there's only one right answer.
She
right?
starts sobbing by the
Oh,
end.
it's
She's
just
like,
they're just no. It's just it can't be right. That can't be true. That can't. Oh, it just wrecked her. Right.
well,
But anyway, we need to shift here. So, but a slight shift, right? So, for those of you who are regulars, you know that every once in a while I review a book or I recommend certain things or whatever. And a while back, a bunch of episodes ago, I reviewed and suggested to everybody this book that Manaka Sensei, and I know a lot of people are not going to follow Manaka Sensei. He broke away from the Bujinkan, founded the Jininkan. Yeah, there's a whole freaking story behind that. You know what? Hatsumi Sensei and him are both okay with it. It was not the same situation that was created by Tanamura Sensei when he broke away from the Bujinkan and threw out all kinds of like inflammatory shit and whatever, right? And again, you have to understand Japanese culture and teacher-student relationships to understand how this had to happen and why Hatsumi Sensei and Manaka Sensei are perfectly okay with it.
chill.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, Manaka Sensei decided to put himself back through university
At 70.
at 70, right? To get a doctorate, right? In psychosociological, cultural, right? It was this big thing, right? Yeah. And ended up writing a book that was his thesis based on a scientific process to validate psychological, emotional, and physical results of developing the mushin, normally translated as no mind. Again,
There's other videos on that.
very rudimentary kind of thing, right? Fudoshin, unshakable mind or unshakable heart, right? Immovable heart. And Heijoshin, common mind, normal mind, everyday mind. There's lots of ways to translate this thing. Heijoshin is what happens when you learn something new and you develop to the ability where it's just an everyday thing. Okay. And I can say this because I see it all the time. I do it jokingly. I'll do it sternly if I have to or whatever. But students walk through that goddamn door to come to class the way they walk normally, right? Carry their body, change their clothes, whatever. Get out on the frickin' floor, and all of a sudden they start moving around like martial arty. Okay? I understand it. It's learning. The mind's trying to remember where the legs go and the hands go and the step by step and all that. But the goal of training, the Ri stage in Shuhari, isn't a rank or a graduation. It's doing this stuff so long and so many different ways. And when you're bored and you want to freaking throw up, oh my God, if I have to do that freaking technique one more time, I'm going to scream. Well, then scream and get it over with because we got shit to do, right? Is to get to a point where you can do this stuff like it's the same as getting dressed. It's the same as getting a glass from the cupboard and the milk and pouring it and never giving it a second thought other than I'm thirsty and I want a glass of milk. Right? I'm just driving, when you first started, holy shit, the brakes there, the pedals there, and then next thing you know, you're freaking, whatever, right? It's taking the extraordinary and making it ordinary. But anyway, instead of resting on his laurels, and all of the traditional stuff and all of the stuff that was passed down and whatnot, that was really developed based on experiential knowledge, whether it was on the martial side or the meditative side, right? And what he wanted to do was to see where science could place this, what could be proven through the scientific process, and got published as a book, right? And so I was covering this, right, as one thing, right? And then, like she said, she put in the chat, "Can I borrow that book?"
I think the very next time I came to see
I'm
you,
a poor ex-college student, and I don't have a lot of money. I'll buy it if you tell me no. But, Daddy, can I?
Can I rent this from the Miller Library?
Yeah. So anyway, she comes in for one of her little visits and stuff, and I made sure the book was here because it was my home library, I think. Yeah. And so I brought it here, and she opens it up, and I point out that there are like all of his notes, all of the surveys and the studies and
it's a true research
results.
experiment.
It is the only one of its kind inside and outside of Japan. Because I think there's some points in there where it starts to cross the bridge into Kuji and stuff. Yeah. So this goes way outside of woo-woo, right? So I give it to psychology, applied intelligence, whatever, right? And this and the Sanmitsu stuff is turning into training for DoD level and 3-letter agency leaders to develop better workforces and minimize friction and vet people better and just all kinds of wild shit. At 24, she was invited to be on a closed, now anybody can watch it, DoD leader, this high level intelligence community podcast. What I didn't tell everybody, and I still have to send out the link because it got approved. It had to be vetted because the topics that she was covering, they weren't sure that, and so
I found out it had to go to SECET,
had to go to
the Secretary of Education.
Secretary of Education
Because it was through a university.
Yeah, but it also had to be vetted by
by the chairmen of the university. So it's National Defense University, which is a government-sponsored university for military and government aspiring
and they have
individuals.
oversight through these other departments to make sure that wrong stuff isn't, or the right stuff isn't being laid on the wrong ears.
Well, not just that, but also, with every administration,
sure,
is this what they want to be promoting? Apparently there's a big kibosh being put on not even like socialist topics, but socialist individuals, like openly socialist individuals, because they're not sure they're not sure what's going to be said and how it's going to be taken, because there's an image to maintain, which I completely understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was on strategic thinking in modern leaders, in specifically military intelligence and government hierarchies, and how the Sanmitsu framework of targeting thought, word, and deed towards a single goal or outcome can ease the cognitive dissonance and allow you to be a more trustworthy, empathetic, and effective leader.
So this circles back to the question. So how are you using Ninjutsu and the warrior higher level psychological spiritual stuff?
I'm
so
currently using
without
it to write
her
my
throwing up
dissertation.
on everybody, right? So Kakusei Mushin focuses on, again, Mushin, right? Fudoshin, Heijoshin, for the most part, but it definitely crosses over into, right? So anybody that's going to be either on virtually or here live for fall camp in October, she's doing another breakout session. So bring lots of note-taking material and something to freeze dry your brain so it doesn't melt out of your head.
And a library card. I have a reading list.
So yeah, and she's going to be providing the reading list, or at least parts of it, because he has background material in here. Because the biggest thing she was talking to me about today was a big point that he makes in this about how difficult, and I don't know if he used the word impossible or not, but how difficult it is for a Westerner to actually understand Bushi as it was developed through the Japanese mind. And a lot of these things that I covered during Kuden and these things that are a part of the art, a lot of folks think that this is like, you can pick and choose and whatever, but um, there is a reading list of things that she'll be giving that actually were given to children to begin the way of thinking and whatnot that leads into this. You have no idea. Most people have no idea how far behind we are when it comes to mindset and understanding that is already Heijoshin for them, that is already Mushin for them, that is already Fudoshin for them because of cultural conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And then the warrior stuff is built on top of that. Because we're coming at this from a Western perspective about what these things mean.
Mm-hmm.
And we can still get there, but ultimately we're going to be I'm still going to be a Westerner who understands the culture and the mindset and has developed some of those things as a hybridized model.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't have childhood up to build on. I have a Western childhood up to learn a new way of looking at things. So I will always be doing this. Which path?
Mm-hmm.
The Western path or now? Hatsumi Sensei said they're both good, right? But a lot of people fantasize about, like, I only want to do it traditional way. I want to. Never going to happen. I'm sorry to pop bubbles, but it's never going to happen. Okay. But at the same time, there's this really cool other thing happening because they won't have a Western warrior's perspective. Now, the reason why Hatsumi Sensei always pointed to no plays and quoting Shakespeare and Heinlein, Robert Heinlein, and all these like Western, Eastern, whatever, is because he read all those things too. And you do it to not only find the differences
Mm-hmm.
and not only find the similarities, but to also find the gaps
Mm-hmm.
where they can help each other. And that's cool shit, right? But anyway, so she had another like crying session, if you were on earlier, going through this thing because he didn't take it from woo woo.
No.
Well, he did. He took what people could write off as woo woo,
Mm-hmm.
but has validation because it can be shown experientially. It can be
Yes.
proven. These masters can do these things. But
Like how?
like
Why?
he ran college students through stuff
Yeah.
at a very rudimentary level
Mm-hmm.
and shows
Yeah,
improvement in how many different like cognitive ability and
and also just physiological speed, accuracy.
speed.
I mean, it not only like reading through this, it's from a credible source on both ends. It's credible through academia and experience
because it's peer reviewed.
It's peer reviewed.
Although find some peers, he had to find peers to review it that were
Mm-hmm.
they were in the academia
fields.
where
Yeah.
he was getting his doctorate.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the subject matter itself, they could only peer review the fact that he ran the scientific process.
The process
right?
itself.
And so I think what you're looking to do now is to find a psych or a PhD program
Mm-hmm.
where you can.
Well, that's a pet project for the future because I would love to run this process on a variety. I'm a big cross-cultural person, comparing Eastern and Western things, and it was something I would love to do.
Yeah, but you're never gonna have your dad's slanted eyes.
Yeah. I have white eyes, thank you. But I would love to run this across multiple different cultures and belief systems, across, how does the invocation of certain words affect people through different prayer beliefs. So we were talking about this earlier, you know, in Japanese society, what does the word suicide evoke versus in a Western Christian church, what does the word suicide evoke? That sort of thing. And how does it evoke a
We had a
physiological
conversation. I
response?
can't remember his name at the moment. We had a conversation just recently about the Japanese scientist who now it's what 10 or 20 years old now, where he had glasses or beakers or containers
Yes.
filled with water and
Yes.
had words printed: happiness, joy, hatred, like all kinds of things, right? And some of them, like he ran one study where he just put them on the outside of the thing, right? And the molecular structure of the water inside, because I think when he was typing it out or writing it out, he was thinking about that energy and stuff. And I can't remember if it was him or somebody else that ran the same experiment, but they wrote it out in an environment where people were actually in that state, like somebody was yelling or screaming or whatever, and then they wrote it out and whatnot. And when they look at the molecular structure of the water, it's like snowflakes, and they're all different. They're all like in anger. There is a pattern,
and you can see
for
it.
anger. There was a pattern for joy, and that's different from just.
And you can see it like when they froze the water.
What's that?
You could see it overtly when they froze the water. It froze in different structures. It froze
in different structures. Yeah.
But, so I would love to run this sort of thing, but what I really got out of this, which unfortunately is not the point, but I'm somebody who I say this of myself, not in a detrimental way sometimes. I'm somebody who thinks so far out the box. Sometimes I forget the box is there, and I forget what the box can do for me.
Well, see, and I always tell people, if you're going to think outside the box, be a good idea to be able to define the box, at least in the beginning. But then your own box is going to change.
Right.
So,
but what
people
found...
use the term thinking outside the box just because they want to be freaking weird or different, not that they're doing anything outside the box.
No.
Right. It's kind of like people who believe that they're nonconformists, so they're not a part of a group. Yes, you are.
You're part of
a group called nonconformist. Just because y'all all live in the same damn area doesn't mean that you're not part of a group that can be identified and understood, and therefore marketed to or communicated with or whatever. See, it's just a way to try to. It's like these all the unique gender, like unicorn kind of things, where everybody's doing this thing to be an individual. But because if you run that process, well, shit, we could all be a different name or identifier or whatever. It's just this attempt to be unique and the only one like that, or in a very small exclusive group.
Well, there's a paper I would love to write on the I don't have a title for it, but it's the idea of we are taught specifically in the Western world to be unique. But if you want to survive social convention, you must fit into a group. And so that's sociological cognitive dissonance on a mass cultural level.
And for the ninja, it's not that they didn't have a group because they lived with their family and their communities, but ninja survival is about adaptivity. It's about the ability to adapt to whatever. And it's nature. Human beings have survived as long as they have and think about the freaking. Like, I would never live in North Dakota, but people in North Dakota in those freezing freaking winters are like, we're a hardy bunch. Yeah, you are. Right.
Yeah. I mean, we're pack animals.
Yeah.
We are. I mean, there's a reason we sync with
one another. But we adapt. But that also means, and James and I have talked about this and shared it and laughed about it and whatnot, because I have a mentor who says that, show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you your future. And I'll show you your future because you're the average of those 5 people. Yeah. Right. And so we have to be careful, right? If you're going to adapt, then you have 2 choices. I mean, and there's a microcosm, macrocosm. The Taizokai tells us that you're going to adapt to your environment, right? You're going to adapt to whatever, like I adapt to the town that I live in and whatever,
the train schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. But you also have the ability to create an environment, to create a social group that will nurture certain things, that will foster certain things, that will require certain things to help with that growth, right? So I created a macrocosm, microcosm called a dojo, and people come here because they want to elevate themselves.
Mhm.
And so I created an environment that allows that to happen. But I put myself into groups where I'm barely the lowest guy on the totem pole. And if I don't keep my shit together, they won't let me stay. And I feel uncomfortable because they all have, right? But we're all working this way. It's a really good book that was written. I mentioned Robert Heinlein earlier, another one of my mentors who's just an author, right? Richard Bach. One of his most famous books was called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It is a fictional book about a gull, a seagull, right? No such thing as a seagull, but Jonathan Livingston Seagull, right? And I read this book 2.5 times on a flight back from the East Coast because I had to go from Dayton, Ohio to Philadelphia to fly back to what was then West Germany. And so a friend had gifted this thing to me. Read it 2.5 times, and I have read it 24 times minimum since then. It is about this individual who is just not going to be like all the other gulls who are just chasing down scraps and being scavengers, and decides to master flight. And it is just this wrecks themselves, almost dies, condemnation from others, all kinds of things, but they will master flight and ends up dying in the process and ends up on the other side with these other gulls who have all attained this same level, and realizes that he's low man on the totem pole in the next realm. And it is a non-stop. All of my Japanese teachers, right, sensei, all these guys, right, they all talk about this. It's a constant. As a matter of fact, in the dojo, we used to have a phrase that was hung up. It was, and sometimes we use "I can," like for the kids, right? But also it's "can I," right? But either way, the philosophy is either way you say it. Improvement is constant and never ending, or constant and never ending improvement, right? So it's just this reminder, right, that if we are not growing, then we are stagnating. And if we are stagnating, like think about a stagnant pond, it's poisonous, it's toxic. If we are stagnating, we are backing up and we are dying, right? Now, ultimately, physically, we're all going to die, right? But at what state? And in Mikyo, the passing on kind of thing is what the state that you that's the energy that goes, right? So, do you barely have a trickle because there's a major freaking short, and you got a brownout in the house? Well, at least the lights are on, but it's dimmer than crap, right? Or do you have these power stations that keep bumping the power
Right.
as it goes so it can go farther, longer, that kind of thing. So anyway, let me just pull back here because we need to wrap this up. Other than distance, because my daughter lives an hour away. Right? Now.
Usually 6 hours.
Yeah, so she was living in D.C. She was living almost to Pittsburgh. So that was 2.5, 3 hours away. Yeah. So other than distance, what are some of the hurdles? Because people would think, again, she's my daughter. This is a gravy ride, right? I mean, how lucky was she to have grown up in this? If you were on for the entire thing, she already told a story where she just kind of like jumped ship because Dad, she just heard something today that like, holy shit. Wait, you got a gift passed through a friend from the Dalai Lama, this grass from Nepal, and the equivalent of holy water, this blessed water for Mikyo altars, from the Dalai Lama, passed through a friend who went to an event that you couldn't make it to. The look on her face was like, holy shit, how did I not...
Well, because I
never heard that
stories before, but I didn't have a frame of reference for the Dalai Lama.
Bodyguard for one of these lamas that, just under that level kind of thing. And, so every once in a while she hears these stories like, holy... So when I say I'm not the martial arts guy that's got a school in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, kind of thing, right? Um, but to most people, they're going to go by the image, right? The fat old bald guy. Anyway, but everybody thinks that this is a cakewalk for you, right? So you've come back to training, right? But other than distance, right? What are some of the hurdles or problems that you have with being a long distance student? And again, it's regional. It's not
Yeah.
across the country or on the other side of the planet like Maury and some of these other guys, right? But this is not a spoon fed kind of thing.
No, it's one of my biggest issues, especially because adulthood kind of hit me with zero time availability. I mean, I was in university, and then I was in university, and now I have two
and you have
jobs.
a job and all. So
Yeah.
you don't have the same kind of scheduling problem everybody else has.
Yeah. So I mean, one of my biggest issues is because so much of what I do is so intellectually based, is pulling myself away from my notes on my computer or my deep dives into the library and stuff like that. And
well, how's that different from anybody else having to pull away from whatever it is?
Right. It's
right?
Well, forcing
binge watching
myself
the
to
same
enter the
movie
physical.
on Netflix for
right.
So
forcing myself to enter the physical and carving out time that respects the necessity for that, because one thing that I'm really leaning into is, if you're going to do something, it's because you respect the outcome, so respect the process. And that's something that I'm struggling with a little bit, because it's so I don't just have 3 classes a week and I have a set time and a set date and a set person and a set curriculum. A lot of what I've been doing is I've been working through the online courses, most of the long distance students, and kind of working my way through things. And unfortunately, because I was gone for so long, most of my frame of reference is from the TOTS program and the kids program.
Yeah.
And so going back through and trying to relate what I think I know to what's now being offered, without always the benefit of being able to raise my hand and ask the question.
And your dad's
right
not at the same understanding level as he was.
Right, as you were then.
Yeah.
So that's one of my biggest issues on the physical side.
Now, here's something. You brought up something earlier, the Catholic influence and them not liking certain things and pulling you away and whatever, right? Victor had posted something just the other day about things that get in the way, right? And people were listing things and whatever, right? And my contribution, and there were 3 things that I contributed, but one specifically was, and people in your life who demand that you quit or give up the path for them. And they may not use those words, right? But it could be deterrence. It could be, and I think I use deterrence and things like that, right? But it's you're taking time from us. You're taking time, whatever, right? Have you experienced anything like that?
I mean, when I was younger, I'm a product of divorce. I'm a child of divorce. And so very early on, when we first moved away, there was no opportunity given to work it back into my schedule, to drive the hour, to come out here, that sort of thing. There was no incentive to stay. And then as I got older, a big factor when you're in university is limited finances. And so, gas to get home and stuff like that was a big factor with that. There wasn't so much
But didn't you have access to the videos or whatever at that time, or no?
No, I didn't. I only got access within Georgetown.
You just had notes and things from coming into seminars.
When I was in Indiana, all I had was every now and then I would come into seminars for camps and stuff like that, and
just practicing with what you had.
Right. One big factor that I didn't realize until much later, I had mentioned that I left a long-term relationship. He liked to remind me of how small I was, staturally, and he was into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and stuff like that, and would constantly try to diminish what I was working on. And I felt kind of stuck, not because I felt that, what I was learning wasn't of value or anything like that, but because I had been in Shinobi Kai from a young age. And I understood there was a difference and a disconnect between the sport fighting that he was learning and the killing skills that I was learning. And when you're play fighting with your boyfriend, you can't really whip a kill shot on somebody, which is what I had been learning. And so there was a
But you
big,
did some things that deterred him from.
well, one time he turned a little purple, and then he kind of was like, okay. But it was a bit of a weird social pressure that I had not experienced before. Of I can't prove to you without becoming an enemy
Mm,
that this is
Mm.
of value.
Mm.
And also, I was raised,
we've
like I
often
said,
talked about that not being willing to do to another human being
well, not that didn't need it or
certain
deserved it. Yeah.
right, to do certain things, who was not actually attacking you. That's
Right.
why most of us don't get involved in sport things,
Mm-mm.
because we're not willing to damage another human being
Nope.
for a trophy or a check or an ego feel good.
Nope.
I don't knock anybody who does that, right? Because if that's what they need, by all means. I have a student, guy 6'5", big. He was a wrestler his entire life and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
He took time off from training and got involved in jiu-jitsu and stuff like
Mhm.
that. As a matter of fact, I think it was the spring camp before you did your fall thing. I think James can set me straight on this one. He did a breakout session for us on jiu-jitsu ground
Oh, I remember hearing about that.
kind of stuff.
I
Yeah.
wasn't here for that.
But at the same time, at the end of the class, he was still lying on the floor. And he said, but please remember, right, while this is something that I think everybody should be good at, there's certain things that you can do and you can't do. And we don't start standing for the most part, right? And if we do, it's to go to the ground quickly and do these things, right? He's, teaching certain things.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things that we are not allowed to do
Mhm.
that if you don't get the training or you don't think about it in that situation, you're not going to have this thing to pull out to use on somebody who, you need to stop. So anyway,
Right.
yeah. So it's all good. But I guess my point with this is we all have our unique things that
Mhm.
prevents us from getting training and whatnot, right?
Right.
Some people have said, "Oh my God, man, you do so much. Like I can't keep up. You've got KUDEN, you got Whiteboard Wednesdays, you've got Ninpo Masterclass Tuesday and Friday nights.
Mhm.
You've got all these things. Like as a student, holy shit! Like how do I keep up? You don't, right? Or you set things aside and you label them, and then when you hit a point where you're researching certain things, or that comes up on the curriculum, then oh shit, look, I can pull that out and I can listen to it or whatever. But you check in during work. You check in during.
This is also a similar thing that I think a lot of academics experience and kind of run face first into the wall of, is what you are putting out is accumulation of 40 years of study and experience and that sort of thing.
Over.
Right. And so, but people expect to be able to take all this in and master it within whatever time frame they've ideally set for themselves. Academics do the same thing. I mean, my dissertation plans are to study the historical evolution of leadership and government loyalty between both Eastern and Western systems, going as far back as records exist. I am not going to be I'm going to give you a reading list during fall camp. I'm not going to be a master of all these texts and their nuances by then. It's in October. So, I'm but
and for anybody for context is listening audio only, we're recording this August 25th of 2025.
Yeah.
So it's almost the end of August.
I have like a month.
Almost at the end of October, right?
Yeah.
Is when she'll be doing this thing.
But
right?
but the idea is that a true academic walks into their field knowing that this is going to take their entire life, and even then they will only be a stone in the wall for the field at large, because humanity has only existed for so long, but there is still too much for a single being to produce and learn within a single lifetime. It's simply impossible. So knowing you are walking into your own death of learning or through learning is extremely peaceful.
But it's the Musha Shugyo as well, right? The warrior's path, right? Or the warrior's quest, right? It's venturing into the unknown and figuring it all out. Now, like you said earlier, lots of people will come to a point where this is enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is good, right?
And I don't
Fantastic.
fault them for that.
Absolutely not.
Sometimes I wish I had that
Absolutely
button
not.
of
Yeah. So my thing, because my approach is always on self protection and whatnot, is it's enough for that stage, right? So have you made plans or trained or put things in place for when you are older, you are weaker, arthritis is, taking over the hips and knees and those kind of things. Not that I'm speaking from uh, experience, or the amount of damage and scarring and whatnot, internally and externally, that the body has taken because of a life in a certain job or vocation or whatever, right? Not just in law enforcement, military, and things like that. Things take their toll, right? And so, you know, where is enough, right? Because again, just like when I said, the older you get, the less I'm going to be around you. Doesn't relinquish my responsibility to make sure that you're safe, and that I did that by making sure that you had the skills, whether you wanted them or not. Right. Same thing, right? Whether whether I'm whether I'm past my wall climbing phase or whatever, right, does not mean that there isn't a jackwagon out there that isn't going to jump the old fat bald guy, either because he finds out that, oh, you think you have a black belt, you're gonna whatever, right?
Or because now you're
Or
of a target population.
because I'm in a target population that
they assume
they
is
find
harmless.
is an easy target.
Yeah.
Right. So, but then I heard this statement once, and we're going to kind of round this out. We'll take some questions and comments and whatnot, but I don't know if we took you or not, but there is an art display called Body Works. There's another one called Body Worlds. There is a German scientist, I think he just passed away, who plasticizes people, right? Drains out all their blood and all that kind of stuff, and he has this plastic resin kind of stuff that he injects into their body and creates different things. It's post-mortem stuff. Yeah.
Sorry, my criminology brain just went to, that's a weird way to
But
kill
there
people.
there's a sub display within this thing. The last place that your stepmom and I went, when my wife Angela and I went, was at the Ben Franklin Museum in Philadelphia. Okay, I think it's still there. As a matter of fact, she donated her body to that process, but she did leave it in her will that I could change it if I want. But
can I get her brain scans?
She wanted to be the first gastric bypass patient that he did. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, so weird family, right? So they have a sub thing on the brain, its development and growth and all that kind of stuff, and how. And I'm coming up on it, right? Somewhere around the age of 65. Your brain starts shrinking. And so the phrase that sticks with me is, I think it stuck out because this is about ninjutsu, right? The phrase was, after that age, figuring out how to do the same or more with less, because you're going to have less. The brain doesn't just shrink and hold on to everything, right? And so that's what Hasmisa has been teaching for decades, right? I mean, the man is still uber lucid, brain wise, and he's wheelchair bound, but groups still go to Japan, take him out to lunch and all that, and everybody brags about, like, he's showing nuances on like a gyakute, or he's describing certain things within the psychological realm or whatever, right? So he's still teaching, right? But how do we? And I think that stuff, Mushin, Furoshin, Heijoshin, the Ninja no Uge, influence, deception, manipulation, those kind of things, right? Those are the kind of things where if you end up where you can't move that fast, or I have a couple of friends, there's other peers and whatnot within the art that several of them, right? Dealing with cancer and stuff. I mean, Pedro Filitis. I mean, everybody's kind of held him in high esteem for decades, right? He's from Spain, right? Just found out recently that he's battling with cancer, right? And so, and whether it's the cancer or not, the chemo's, God, it's a fucking train wreck, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, how do you keep doing things even though the state's different? And that's why, and that Hatsumi Sensei learned this lesson coming out of his stomach cancer problem, intestinal stuff, in the late 60s, early 70s, because up to that point, everything was about, like, he trained like a freaking rock. He trained like Bruce Lee did,
Mm-hmm.
right? Of course, Bruce Lee burned himself out, but he trained really, really hard, and then got hit with that and realized that's not true strength.
Mm-hmm.
It really is what's in the scrolls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Adaptability and strategic thinking and these kind of things, that these things will eventually be stripped away from you, whether it's age, whether it's an accident. I've got guys that are combat vets and stuff, that, you know, the back is screwed up or whatever, right? And but still, shit can happen at any moment. So we need weapons in different places, and things that we can still do. And I think that's where, again, even people that you know, they just swear by the sport martial arts, and I'm not knocking those things, but when they knock our stuff, or when they knock my videos or whatever, they're drawing a comparison between, you can't do this thing. Even Joe Rogan, right? At that stage, you're screwed, whatever. Ninjutsu is all about being the frickin' underdog who's supposed to lose, and having tricks up your sleeve that you can't. But we have to extend beyond the physical, you know, the dive rolls through obstacle courses and whatever. I mean, I can still roll. I can still do those things. I just don't do them a lot, because I do them enough to stay able. But like, if I teach that for a class, I can't be teaching for another day and a half, because the body gets rattled,
Right.
and the arthritic bones and
To fight
discs
nature
and
is
things.
to suffer.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, right, if I go to the ground, I'm going to have to do things. I mean, I got tripped up in the dog's leashes one time. One got off, slipped his leash to go after the dog next door, right? And it was Sparky. And so,
My boy.
Bug, everything got taut, right? And I bolted after him, tripped over this thing, right? Went off the front porch, right? So there's those steps, right?
Yeah.
Hit the sidewalk, rolled back on my feet, went right after the dog, got the dog, that kind of thing, right?
Bet your hips hurt when you got home.
I was so pissed at that dog, because, man, did I hurt, right? And not because I hit bone points or anything like that. I didn't, right?
No.
But like all that vibration to the system. So, I mean, it was a little bit of a validating moment as well, that, like, you know, just like when I was a cop, I've never been a runner, right? I'll speed walk somebody's legs off, right? But to run, oh man, when I catch you, it's not going to go well for you. That kind of thing. Yeah. So, and I recovered very quickly. It wasn't a day, whatever, because I was teaching the next day and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, there was no mats involved or anything like that. So anyway, so cool beans. I really, really like this. Let's see. So let's open it up to anybody else. James, if we didn't put you to sleep, who's on? Questions, comments, or whatever, just to kind of wrap this up. Is he there? He is there. I know he's there because I can see. Hey, look, it's James. Watch this. It really is James.
Jesus.
No, James.
Whatever you want to be called this week is fine with me, dude. What's up? Wow.
It's like when you open your camera and the front camera's on.
Questions, comments.
Josh had a one or two here. I think the reality of aging, that you don't get better physically as you get older, you get worse, is one of those white elephants that is hard for folks to swallow in most martial arts.
Especially people that are physically oriented, right? We those people who go through the Mikyo training and whatnot. We talk about the five skandhas, these five aspects of ourselves that can be scientifically validated, right? So we don't talk about the soul and stuff like that. It's not because we're going to argue that it doesn't exist or anything. It's just about, can you prove it, right? So there's form, feelings, perception, conceptualization, and consciousness, right? And so you can peg people into those things. And martial artists and fighters and whatnot, by and large, are very form oriented, right? Physicality, and they're either in denial in certain areas, or if they hear about somebody like losing a limb or whatever, first words out of their mouth, man, if I ever lose a limb, just fucking kill me, right? Just like academics, right? If I ever have a stroke and I can't be a research, whatever. So other people, it's if I ever become emotionless like that and cold, just kill me, because it's the seat of ego, right? And that's why part of that process is to equally balance those things out, so that But absolutely, what else we got?
I gotta work on that.
Josh also said, if you guys haven't watched it, the Netflix series House of Ninjas is really good. Great example
I have not.
of
I'm always suspect of anything with the word ninja in it.
Jonin, Chunin, Gainin in practice. Well, in fiction, the series is in Japanese, but it is subtitled.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
I like that.
Very cool. What else?
And then Amy asked, Trin, do you think those that don't understand what's happening with the frequency can still feel it? Maybe refer to it as energy.
What is Amy's last name?
Camacho.
Oh,
That's my sister.
got my other daughter on. Wow, check that out.
Hi, Girly Pop.
Would you just call her
Girly Pop?
Girly Pop.
Yeah, I think you can feel it. It's less overt, and you may be less likely to acknowledge you are making decisions based on it. But quite frequently, the mind on the psychological front will justify the brain's chemical actions because it needs to relieve that cognitive dissonance.
Just
And
like
so,
people think that they're rational beings,
Mhm.
and then they have emotional kind of things. But science has proven
Mhm.
we're led by our feelings,
Right.
and our intellect will justify the validity
Mhm.
of that. Not only the feeling, but
the
the
reaction.
actions and thoughts and whatnot
Right.
that were a result of that.
I mean, if you
and
think
this is
about
why
it-
self-checking is such a huge
Mhm.
thing, because if you don't catch yourself doing it, then you're just bound to just call everybody else out on it. And this is the hard part about the road, because ego does not like that mirror that gets held up in front of it.
But if you think about it, even in modern colloquialisms, you say somebody didn't pass the vibe check. You walked into a room and the vibes are off. We have that way of expressing it. We often invalidate it because in Western society we are either hard science or primarily monotheistic, and so there is a single authority on any given topic, and if they have not covered it or don't have the tools yet to explain it, then it either doesn't or shouldn't exist in any serious conversation. So I think people in that colloquialistic experience, and in that changing of vernacular that we use, that changing of vocabulary, we find a way to describe it even if we can't explain it. And so that's vibe check and stuff like that come in. So I definitely think people feel it. I mean, when they always say, kids are a great judge of character. They don't know what character is. They don't know what your job is.
Animals too.
Yeah, and they don't. I mean, if you think about it this way, a child who's at daycare has no way of knowing that the daycare owner beats his wife, but they know they don't like being in the room with that big man. You have no idea.
And it's not just
how.
because they're afraid of men or people that look like that.
No, I mean, they have no frame of reference except their own dad, who they love to bits.
Right.
But there's a feeling, and especially with people who
Well,
are
our upper level stuff from fifth down on
Mhm.
is all about not only that intuitive insight where danger exists but you can't see it,
Mhm.
right? but it gets nurtured for, and that's where most people drop off. We used to call the fifth dan test the go down test
That's my favorite.
instead of
bit.
go down. Yeah, so but they're supposed to nurture it. It's a gateway, right? And we rely more and more on those kind of things because you start to recognize that there are so many things that we can be in touch with,
Mhm.
but it's kind of like if you were to send somebody into a flower shop and they're supposed to bring back a rose, and you can say, any color is fine, but bring back a rose, right? And you're going to describe to that person how to know a rose from every other flower that's in there. You know what a rose looks like. You know what a rose smells like. Different than a carnation, different than,
But
right?
can you convey that?
But you can't convey it,
No.
right? And so there are things that we can know, but we can't convey, right? And that's huge, right? And that's just one small example of these realms. So absolutely,
And that's
these
one of the
things
reasons I am leaning so heavily, not personally, but in study wise, into Taoist practices, because the idea is that you return to, they call it return to your child. That's the direct translation. But you're not returning to your own children or any sense of literal sense. You are attempting to re-engage that which made yourself as a child so curious, so exploratory, and kept you alive.
And it gave you so much potential,
right? But it also,
Hatsumi Sensei's called it return to zero,
right? But it allows you to look at something sharp, not know what the word sharp is, not have ever touched anything, and go, maybe, and all you gotta do is because you're hesitant. You're hesitant to do it, or if they say don't touch the stove. I don't know what a stove is, but if they feel the heat, it's that
well, the first time you burn
caveman.
yourself,
Well, it's that caveman of I don't know. It's new.
Right.
But
and then new hurts.
Right, but you're still willing to keep touching new.
Yep.
So that return to
most of us. Some people.
Well,
yeah.
Some people have a fear of existing, but
indeed.
Yeah. So, in short, yes, I when in the Sanmitsu thing, when I gave that list of
this is about the
definitions.
validity of these things, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, because I think that again, self-checking is still needed, right? Because it's why we have both sides. We have an intuitive side, and we have an intellectual side. So, I was just talking about our fifth dan test, where somebody stands behind you with this split bamboo sword, and all you have to do to pass that test when they crack the floor where you're sitting is to not be there, right? So without going into the long, hard part of it, right? You have to go through a lot, and a lot of people don't. They don't do this training because there's this belief that you either have it or you don't. We run people through drills and experiences and things like that because the point of the drills is not to teach you how to do this thing, right? There is a psychological part to it. There's a physical part to it. Physical part has to be trained. The psychological part is not about training it. It's about getting the shit out of the way that would cloud it. Okay. But part of the development leading up to being able to pass that test is being able to tell the difference between what is in Japanese called saki, the feeling the force of the killer, right? This killer intent, and paranoia, because one, that they're not processed on the same side of the brain. Okay, and so I need to know the difference, and I also need to cut the tendency to have a sensation and have to run it through intellect to name it before I move. Because I've seen people fail that test who were very intuitive but couldn't move directly to get out of the way. And I've seen just as many people fail who were excellent at Taijutsu, the ability to roll and all that kind of stuff, but second guess themselves all the time and bang, just getting hit on the head, right? So I also think that before we write things off to or trust our intuition, we're not falling for ego's game where we're right more often than we're not. Because we need to know, we need to explore more about when we were right and we were wrong, right? And we also have a hardwired bias against anything that's different or cues or clues pop up. We don't know that those cues or clues popped up because there's actually something there or because we have ghosts from our past and something just happened to link up, right? And so if it's not going to kill you in the moment, can we just still watch? The hard part is, can we still watch without the bias? Can we be willing to be wrong with the right? It's just like scientific process. But the biggest problem for scientists is not presuming the outcome at the outset of the experiment.
That's why we have blind testing.
Yeah, because that's a huge thing, right? There's a huge social thing these days that is blown out of proportion. It actually got started in a university paper written by this female about this topic, 1978, 79, okay? It was never peer reviewed. And it was written from her own experiences, not through the scientific process. And it was allowed to fly. And it's been used as the basis for more and more things and cited and all that. And the short of it is, when we're really on this path to check things, right, for growth and all that, we can't trust ourselves.
Well, that's what I
because
like.
we're going to guess ahead of time.
I like how you frame that, because that goes along with what I mean when I say yes, it happens whether you realize it or not with the vibrations. We're not on a path to be right. We're on a path to find right. In my thing, I use the word fact to describe what is. I mean, it's like back when in Aristotle,
and I use the word truth,
right,
as long as you know the definition behind the words you're using.
But back in like Aristotelian and Galilean times, just because they taught that the world was flat and the sun revolved around the earth did not change the shape and composition of the cosmos.
Correct.
We eventually figured it out, but so that's what I mean when I say we're not on the road to be right, we're on the road to find right. So you want to find that which is true and enables success, not to be successful because you said so.
One of the things that really did it for me a long time ago was, and this is why we have meditation practices, and we have like the scientific process and whatnot to check the brain on things. When you recognize that the average brain is an assumptive processor and not an observational processor,
the top-down processing really kills a lot.
The assumption that this is what I expect to see. If you believe that that person hates me or life sucks or whatever,
you'll find it.
You will filter out everything else, right? Just like if I assume that life is, people are generally good and they mean well, they just don't know how they operate. And so, right, there's that conflict going on, right? But they don't mean to hurt me or whatever. That doesn't mean that somebody isn't going to be flailing around because they're having a good time and not paying attention, okay? I've always taught you guys growing up, right? Some of you paid attention, some of you didn't, right? The problem with becoming aware is that you have to be aware for two people. One, you. Two, everybody else around you that's not paying attention.
That's one of the biggest points that I stressed in the Nat Def podcast was, as a leader, as soon as you become self-aware, you are now responsible for the awareness or lack thereof of every single person in the room, because if they don't know what they're doing, it's on you.
Yeah. So I know we could dig into this stuff all night long. James, anything else from anybody else? It's amazing what they have to do to get show up. You have to be on Oh, look at that. Oh.
I'll just sit in the background of every podcast.
We'll just put a picture of you right there. This is Trinity. Have you met Trinity? Okay. Anyway, what's up?
Nick Tomlinson said the feeling and adrenaline of a near-miss car accident, in my view, is the feeling of sensing danger.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody that's ever see, when I was a police officer, in my day, we had to do certain types of training, and some of it was planned, and some of it was like every time we had to chase somebody. I got so good at whipping my car into tight parking spots that my partner on that side was pretty sure that microns of paint had transferred, even though I didn't make contact. Because, and I know, here's the woo-woo thing again. I and the vehicle were one. I could feel where the edge of that car was. And so, absolutely, right? If you're that near miss thing and you're feeling it, absolutely, right? And sometimes we'll swerve and not even know why the hell we swerved or whatever. And Hatsumi Sensei has even said, don't write off luck, right? Sometimes you do things for the wrong reason and it worked out. Thank you very much.
That's one thing.
Keep on going.
That is one thing I have told people, because people often, I should say not often, but recently, as I've been entering my professional sphere, is how did you know to look into that? Where did you go to find that? How did all these things happen? I am an extremely luck-prone person, and I acknowledge that. I never act as though I will be lucky, but I acknowledge that so much has had to happen to bring me to exactly where I am, and I express extreme gratefulness for it.
Well, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but I've talked to James about this in the past, because now that we're getting the dojo back where it needs to be, I mean, we're the shoji screens and decor and all kinds of stuff, right? So, like, it's taken almost 3 months, right, before I can start advertising, before I can start promoting, that kind of thing. This took a hell of a chunk out of us, right? But
could have taken years.
It could have taken. I could have closed the damn doors. I'm just not that kind of person. So, what I have found is the more energy I put out, the more comes back, but not necessarily directly from the angles that I put out. Like, I could start running ads, and next thing you know, I get like a ton of walk-ins, and nobody saw the ads, right? Or we do a heavy run on Facebook, whatever, right? Just popping up posts and whatever, right? And people come in and heard you on the radio. I haven't run radio advertising in like 15 years. So I'm sure. And they could have heard it way back in the day, whatever. But it's almost like as soon as I start, it's that resonance thing. As soon as I start putting that energy out, these lucky little things start happening. And that's why in Mikyo, we still use the term luck, but the recognition is that luck isn't just this random thing. It seems random, but it's a bunch of karma coming together, primary, secondary, and stuff coming together. And there was so much going on that you couldn't perceive it. And all you had to deal with was that thing as it happened. And so good luck, bad luck. And we even have a problem, even in Taoism, they don't, and Confucianism, they don't discuss luck from the perspective of good luck, bad luck, because you never know what that's going to lead to next.
Well,
but as soon as you tune yourself to, well, I got the shitty hand of the stick, right? Because, somebody's kid could have broken a leg, right? And, that was bad luck. But you don't know. And next thing you know, let's say this is ancient Japan or China, and there's now a war going on, and they're coming through the villages and grabbing every able-bodied man, and you don't have a choice, right? You're going off, except he doesn't have to go because he's broken, right? He'll heal up in a couple of weeks, but they're not taking him, right? So, well, that was good. Well, we don't know, right? What's the next thing? So you learn to take things in stride and recognize. But again, especially in the West, I can't speak for other cultures, we are heavily imbued with a winner-loser mindset. If you didn't win, then you must have lost. right? If you lost, then you didn't win. There's no scale. There's no gray area, right? Or ego will play off the, well, at least I didn't win or I didn't lose as badly as he did. And again, it's thinking here or here. So intuition, see, I think there's a whole bunch of shit that we're processing, but not on a cognitive left brain level. But at the same time, some people are ruled way too much by feelings, and they don't realize that those feelings are a chemical electrical process in the system that may or may not have any validity whatsoever.
That endocrine system will lie to you.
Oh man, that endocrine system will lie to you. Holy shit. And your endocrine system is affected by your most recent diet, could be colors of clothing you're wearing or the textures, all kinds of things.
Could be the time of month.
Just, so that's why Hatsumi Sensei makes a difference between regular nerves, feelings and whatnot, and Budo nerves. Because when you have an adrenaline or the endocrine system fires, right? You have this adrenal response. The system has to go through a state change for that next thing, right? And so most people respond to the sensation of fear because they got to move now, right? Or they move because they're driven out of a fear of being afraid. And so they jump too soon. Instead of like repositioning to a position of safety to continue to watch so the system can normalize and you can get more data, right? Otherwise, what ends up happening is you're in a state of fire, ready, aim. It's already too late, right? So so anyway, she has the degree to back this stuff up. I'm just an amateur researcher. Anyway, what else we got, James?
Josh said, I find the more I prepare, the luckier I get.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick said, I was going to say it's almost as if good karma and luck are connected, but you literally said that as I was typing.
Oh, it's all right. You still get the win, dude.
Well, because karma's not always good and luck isn't always bad.
Well, they're not divorced. They're not anything. The word karma itself, or kama in Pali, simply means action. It implies cause and effect, but it's not good or bad. Because people will say, oh, bad karma, dude. Well, okay, but have you ever looked at somebody and go, wow, good karma, dude? But it's not about that. It's action. And what it generally points to is good actions beget good consequences. Usually. Because there's secondary karma. There's
it's not always
secondary effects that produce this ripple of it. It's not that clean and easy, right? And a lot of people will stop because no,
well, that's
my brain hurt.
In Taoism, there's a lot of double speak and things like that. But
language only gets you so far.
Right. It's the idea of if it happens, it was always going to. If it doesn't, it never was. Because karma is not just your own as we are as individuals. It is the way the world is going to move from one second to the next. It's not like it's predestined.
Right. Yeah. See, she's not talking about predestination. This is not that kind of thing.
I'm talking about from one second to the next. Every single one of our energies are bumping into each other, and it's just
and they will produce a very specific effect. That's right. So, they can't not be. One of the I did a webinar on this a long time ago. I did a whole course on 7, or was that just a single webinar leading off into something else? I don't know.
So much.
It was the 7 characteristics of an enlightened mind, and one of those.
Oh, I remember that.
One of those characteristics is the ability to recognize karma in action. You can see any object, process, person, or thing, and know activity, action, whatever, and know what karma led to that and what that will produce in the future, unless it's affected by equal or greater karma. But no karma ever gets negated. If you created bad karma for yourself, that can be influenced by
Mm-hmm.
equal or greater karma, but all karma must cook itself off. You can't make it go away, right? So in Mikyo, what we do is we accelerate negative karma to burn it off faster, which means you feel like shit for a while, but you cook it off instead of postponing it or lying or dumping gasoline on the goddamn thing, hoping that you can die before it manifests, right? But again, Mikyo is the warrior's version of that path, right? It's known as the path of the Diamond Thunderbolt Warrior, right? So you just fucking go hard and fast to cook that shit off. Put all your eggs in one basket, get it over with, and then you can go back to the party because you're not going to be stung by the party anymore. Not that you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it. But you're not going to feel like shit tomorrow because you got to go to work and, oh, why does parties have to end? Or why does the day at the amusement park have to end? Because they fucking end, right? Right? And why do you feel like shit going to work? If you feel like shit going to work, then get another job. Well, it's not that easy. I didn't say it was easy. Okay. But chances are the person who feels like shit at that job is going to feel like shit at any job because they just don't want to fucking work. Right. And if they did, you don't like the way the managers do things. You don't like the way the bosses do things. You don't like the rules. You don't like then start your own goddamn business. Oh, I don't want that kind of responsibility. Yeah, no shit. Okay. So, but every time that we run whatever processes we run, our brain physiologically, anatomically builds neural networks that allows us to do that faster. When our cells subdivide, the sister cells have more docking ports for the peptides that put us in those emotional states that we trust as fact.
Neurocognitive homeostasis.
Right? Your body is built to adapt, and it will adapt to external environmental conditions, familial social conditions, or your own inner workings so that you can see the world you expect to see.
Ego must be right.
It is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we are built to do that.
Yep.
But that has nothing to do with truth.
No.
Right? Well, that's my truth. No, that's a fucking opinion. I'm not denying your experience, but you built that experience because whether you wanted it or not, it's what you assumed you would get.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The human brain is an assumptive processor, not an observational processor.
And belief is more powerful than desire.
Oh, way more.
What you believe to be true versus what you wish to be true, desire to be true, will never be equal. Like when somebody think of like elementary school kids. What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be the president. But as they grow up, they view the president through civics classes or history courses as untouchable.
Or friends, or
they don't
whatever.
believe that position exists for everyday people. So no matter how much they work towards it and want to be that thing, if they do not believe it is possible, or they believe it is highly improbable for that to happen, they will be pushing themselves so much further back along a line that could have been expedited by simply belief in a different reality, which is both easier and harder than it seems, because like I said in the beginning, we lie to ourselves all the damn time.
You might as well lie yourself forward.
Yep. I mean, the phrase fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Now, I had a hard road ahead of me to overcome the negative reinforcement, right? You're stupid, you're all these kind of things, right? But people who received way too much in the way of self-esteem validation have a hard road ahead as well, because they're going to get stung by
experiencing failure.
By experiencing failure, because right, I'm going to be the president. Oh, you can be anything you want as long as you work hard enough. That's not true. Aptitude, your ability to
Charisma.
handle risk, right? Or people calling you all kinds of freaking names. Have you seen the political ads are nothing but smear campaigns, right? All we're going to do is try to be less ugly looking than the other guy at the end of the process, right? So not everybody can weather those kind of storms, right? Especially uber successful people. Everybody likes to condemn them, right? They do need to make millions and millions of dollars because you know what? Greedy motherfuckers try to set them up so they can sue them to get some of those millions of dollars. And they've got to pay lawyers and accountants and all kinds of shit too. So, okay. And I'm not saying there isn't corruption or whatever, but I've also come to understand in my life that somebody who's poor or sees himself that way is just as likely, if not more likely, to lie, cheat, and steal to get something than the corrupt rich person.
Because they believe that's the only way to get it.
Because the corrupt rich person doesn't have to worry about money. They just spend that. But, right, well, the only way to get ahead. My stepdad told that to my mom, and she still fucking married him. Lie.
Damn.
It's the only way to get ahead. Yeah, well.
Hell of a marriage vow.
Anyway, so, all right, anything else, James?
One last one from Amy. She said, I think once you learn everyone is walking life through their own perspective and own understanding, you see the human in everyone, and it becomes easy to be a good person and only want to put out good in the world. Listening has been awesome.
Yeah, and I'll finish that one, and I'll let you finish it as well. Reverend Jikai, my Miko teacher, gave me an exercise very, very early on, and I had to do it for a week straight. And that was only because he stopped me at that point, because he would have let me go. And the exercise was to see every human being in the world as enlightened except me.
That was really hard to do at school.
Except me. Okay? Enlightened, we understand the people that are enlightened or whatever, they have something to teach us, right? Now, they may be a positive role model, a negative role model, or whatever, but we meet them like they're a Buddha. We meet them like they're awake, they're enlightened, they have something that we could learn from. Everybody's enlightened except me. Not sometimes. Okay? And that's how I got to the point where there's family members, there's other people in my life and whatnot that I don't want anything bad to happen to them or whatever, but I mete out, METE, not MEAT, right? How much time I allow myself to be around them or influenced by them or whatever. I accept them for who they are, right? But I have to maintain my own sanity. I have to maintain my own peace. I have to maintain my own resonance, right? Because if you ever see me, and it's not so bad anymore because COVID made everybody like shop online and all that kind of stuff, right? But Black Fridays before that, I didn't go because if I found myself at a place like that or a concert or a fair or whatever, it was wall-to-wall people and whatnot, the first thing you would see me do when I got to my car, if I could have some breathing room getting to the car, if not, it was at home. First chance I got was to get out, take a deep breath, and literally wipe myself off because it felt like it was stuck to me. And it's got to go. It's like I'm literally just brushing this negative energy off of me. Whether that's actually what's happening or not, I'm having a visceral sensation of something that I feel like I'm walking through mud, right? It's just, but that's, I've developed sensitivity and whatnot over life and whatnot,
even
right?
if it's, quote, only in your own head, our brain works on placebos.
But doing that,
it works.
Doing that action absolutely works, right? So anyway, how would you wrap up that?
Well, you mentioned realizing everybody is walking through their own life.
That doesn't mean they need to walk through you.
No, but it really struck me because I had a really difficult relationship with my mom growing up, as most, I think, daughters do with their moms at some point, to the point where I did not see myself having an adult relationship with her ever.
Hmm.
It got very, very bad. I think you were there for one of those times where I asked you to come out and come get me.
Talked you down.
Yeah, because it was such a, and I'm tearing up thinking about it, because it was almost so detrimental to my life. But going to college, I was in my psych programs, and I was again studying. It was a segment out of my developmental psychology program, which typically studies psychology through the lifespan, starting with children up to elder ages. But part of the studying was child rearing techniques and the parent-child relationship. And one of the biggest things that hit me was nothing to do with academia, nothing like any of that. It was something that my professor had told me. Sorry, I just got mascara in my eyeball. I'm a girl and I have problems.
I'm a girl and I have problems. Wow.
It hurts to look this good. No. But
You get a marker, I can fix things.
honestly, do it. But it was something my professor said, that your parents are not gods. They or society have taught you that so that you believe them enough to not die every day. But they are just like you. They are a child who had a child, regardless of what age they gave birth to. They are a child who had a child trying to raise a child. This is their first time around the sun, too. And knowing that allowed me to look at my mom, still as my mom, but as a scared little girl who was scared of losing her little girl and didn't know what to do.
And certain things were said or done.
And done because she
they didn't
know
want
what
you
to do.
make
Right.
mistakes that would get you hurt and whatnot.
And so
Yeah.
what you said perfectly encapsulates that. It's everyone's first time around the sun, regardless of whether you believe in reincarnation or not. This is their first consciousness trip around the sun. And realizing that allows you to disconnect your responsibility from caring for them, but increases your capability to care about them.
There you go.
And it like I said, figuring this stuff out, and it's not as though I'm, some monk at this point who has the world figured out or has these systems figured out. No. But making these little realizations has made life so much easier. I think like most Western teens, you go through a phase where you wonder, what's the point? Do I want to keep doing this? That sort of thing. Realizing these things, I really am. My mom will wake up in the morning and I'll be a literal ray of sunshine. And she goes, ugh, it's too early for this. I haven't even had coffee yet. But I am. It makes...
It's funny. Reverend G. Guy said the same thing about me.
It is.
I brought him in for a seminar and I'm just like, dude, he wouldn't get up until noon, 1 o'clock. But we were also training, like doing stuff until like midnight, 2 a.m. or whatever. And I brought him in for a seminar. Training starts at 9, so I've got him at breakfast at like 7:30, right? And I'm just like,
asking him questions.
And he just goes, Jeff, do you know one thing I really hate? I'm like, no, Sensei, what? And he goes, happy people in the morning. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Sensei. Says, oh, Jeff. Right?
Yeah.
Because if I have to be up, I'm like ready to go.
Well,
Right?
I mean, realizing it's everyone's first trip around the sun. It's your first trip around the sun.
And I was training under this enlightened teacher and stuff, and I'm like, wow, you got a personality and you don't like early mornings.
Yeah.
But overnight, oh, shit, I'm starting to get tired. And he's just like, this lesson, this lesson. And yes, Sensei.
Well, that's how my mentor and my boss at Local is. Woman is a night owl, and I'm concerned for her cardiac health because I've read studies on shift work and night work. It's hell on your body. But she'll send me
5
a text.
hours of sleep a night.
She'll send me a text at like 4 or 5 in the morning. Hey, when you get a chance, can you review this? Or I just read your paper.
And she's not expecting an answer from you until your normal time. My team gets those kind of things every once in a while, and they know that I'm not expecting an answer right away.
No.
I would like one within the 12 to 24 hour time period, and not the, I remember to check my email again. Oh, that's right. I'm on a team.
Well, we'll have a meeting sometimes.
Hint, nudge, nudge.
Damn. We'll have a meeting sometimes that starts at 9 or 9:30.
It's not James. James is on things.
But it'll go for hours. And she'll be like, okay, if you have anything else, I'll be up for the next couple hours. And I look at her very respectfully and I tell her, I'm like, all due respect, woman, go to bed. Because it's insane. But, everybody ticks on a different schedule.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I won't go into the science of your circadian rhythm.
Please don't.
But
right. So, guys, we need to wrap this up. We have pushed this over the 3-hour mark, and if you stayed with it for the whole time, you are retarded. So
you are.
Yeah, so we are slightly over. So, James, as always, thank you. I appreciate it. So, we touched on some of these other ones along the way, just a conversation. But again, my daughter Trinity, ta-da! My daughter Amy, you're not going to see her face. She's man, it's amazing what happens. I swear to God, if Brandon would have piped in. One, we would have gotten very different comments.
I'm the family connection note. I bring them all to me through sonar.
James, hit the off button.
No. I think he would be respectful.
Yeah, no, he would.
His Batman icon would be respectful.
He would. Anyway, all right. So, guys, thanks for sticking it out with us again. I'm sure that Terrence has a whole bunch of notes about some really good, juicy stuff as he chops this up into segments. At least he better have.
My God, my face is going to be on YouTube.
I'm sure he does. Well, better than plastered to the screen.
Well, I mean, I have another.
All right, we got to go.
Now.
We got to wrap this up. All right, so I will talk to everybody again next time. All right, we'll be back on kind of a regular thing, and I don't know what the.
Can I say it?
What? Oh yeah, sure. You can wrap it up.
Okay. Train hard, be safe, and we'll see you next time on KUDEN.
Get more of KUDEN Radio. Subscribe through your favorite podcasting site, or join our clan of serious modern warriors at onlineninjaacademy.com.